welcome, Director. Glad to have you with us. Wendy, roll call, please.
Dale Wilson.
Here.
Charles Kimball.
Here.
Brian Parker.
Here.
Patty Chapel. Here. Kurt Offenbacher.
Here. And staff, please.
Kyle Rodman.
Wendy McCarron. Kelly Strange. Alicia Burgess. Sarah Klein.
Rob Courier.
Mark Kramer. Doug Barrow.
Do we have any guests in addition to ex-director Davis?
I think we do have a couple, Stacy and Scott, y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, good evening. This is Scott Bauer from Northwest Municipal Advisors.
I'm Stacy Amasaki from Foster Garvey.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Okay, do we have any changes to our agenda timeline?
Bill's wife is here.
Right.
Lisa Olson.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us. Thank you.
Any changes to the agenda?
None from the staff. We were gonna wait until 6 to do the item 7, but we have both of our external advisors online, so we can do that anytime when we get to that.
Okay. All right, no deferred items. We don't have any public comment, Wendy?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's move into item 5, the director's oath of office, and Patty, you want to administer that, please?
I do. And Dale, just so I know I have a good shot of you over on the camera, just stand right here. Lisa? Front and center.
You can get your photo wherever you want.
I have to read it first. Okay, we're gonna now administer the oath of office to our new board of director member, Dale Olson. And please repeat after me. I. Who are you?
Dale Olson.
I, Dale Olson, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, particularly the letter and intent of Article 11, Section 12, People's Utility District, and the laws of the State of Oregon, and particularly the letter and intent of Chapter 261.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, particularly the letter of intent of Article 11, Section 12, People's Utility District, and the laws of the State of Oregon, particularly the letter of intent of Chapter 260.
People's Utility Districts, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Emerald People's Utility District Board member to be the best of my ability to accomplish the goals and objectives for which the People's Utility District laws and constitutional amendment were adopted.
People's Utility Districts, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Emerald People's Utility District Board member to the best of my ability to accomplish the goals and objectives for which the People's Utility District laws, constitutional amendment were adopted.
Mazel tov!
Mazel tov.
Yay!
All right.
Hanging above your fireplace.
Okay, so Charles and Brian. Sure, if you
I
would.
got two of them, stand up or?
Well, I'd have to have my copy, so, because I have to share. I'm supposed to read it out loud too.
Okay, we'll pretend we're singing in the choir.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can share. You can see, and I have it so far to see.
You can use this.
Oh, thanks.
And everybody have their own. Let's make it a little easier if you have your own copy. So please repeat after me to be sworn in for your new term of office starting January 14th, 2025. I
Brian Parker, Charles Kimball,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, particularly the letter and intent of Article 11, Section 12, People's Utility Districts, and the laws of the State of Oregon, and particularly the letter and intent of Chapter 261, People's Utility Districts, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Emerald People's Utility District Board member to be the best of my ability to accomplish the goals and objectives for which the People's Utility District laws and constitutional amendment were adopted.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, particularly the letter and intent of Article 11, Section 26, People's Utility Districts, and the laws of the State of Oregon. particularly the letter and intent of chapter 261, People's Utility Districts, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Emerald People's Utility District Board Member to the best of my ability and to accomplish the goals and objectives for which the People's Utility District laws and constitutional amendment were adopted.
Congratulations.
Yes, I'm not with the band.
I
learned it from the Flintstones.
Okey dokey. So now,
Your fingers crossed or something?
Okay, glad we got that out of the way. Let's move on to item 6, election of board officers. I'll call for nominations for board president.
I would like to nominate Kurt Offenbacher.
do we need a second?
I'll
No?
second it.
I don't think we, I don't know.
No, I don't think we need a second on that. Is there any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's carried unanimously.
Welcome aboard. Let's give him the gavel.
I'll call for nominations for vice president.
Maybe discuss. Nominate Patty Chapel.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It's carried unanimously. Nominations for treasurer. I'll nominate Mr. Parker.
Second that, even though it's not needed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thanks, Brian.
That was quick.
that's done. That was
Wow.
easy. And I'll turn the agenda over to President Offenbacher.
Yes, indeed. Gonna pass him
There
the
you
gavel.
go, Dad.
That makes it-
He's
that makes it-
eyeballing.
Pass it to him, all right.
That makes it official, I think.
Yeah, pass it around.
So we
Serious.
are,
Here
Scott
you
Stacy.
go.
Yeah, so if we want to go on to item 7 here, we have our 2 external advisors. Scott is from our financial advisory firm that's been working with us for quite a long time, and Stacy is from Foster Garvey, who is our bond counsel and who's also been with us for a number of years here. So I'll let them take over in just a second, but the purpose tonight is just basically an introduction. And then we will be available to answer questions about the motion or the ordinance that's on the agenda tonight, and then the upcoming calendar of events when it comes to the line of credit plus the bond issuance that's coming our way as well. So Scott, Stacy, I don't know who wants to go first to kind of do the intros, but let's see, Stacy, I see you up there first, so maybe we'll have you go and then Scott can follow.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Stacy Yamasaki. I'm a partner at Foster Garvey. And Foster Garvey is one of the largest full-service law firms based out of the Pacific Northwest. And I've been in the public finance field for over 20 years, and we have the largest public finance for kind of attorneys in the Pacific Northwest as well. And we are based, I'm based out of Seattle, but we have attorneys in Seattle and Portland that do this kind of work. I work with many municipalities in Washington and Oregon, and mostly concentrate on utilities. So nice to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and good evening. My name's Scott Bauer from Northwest Municipal Advisors. I'm a principal here, and we've worked with Emerald for several years. I guess most recently on the 2021 bond that was placed privately with KeyBank, the banking arm of KeyBank, and presently working then with the district on potentially 2 issues, one of which the line of credit, which will be discussed later today, and then also on the long-term financing. And just today, as part of that long-term financing, we got in proposals for underwriters. So I think everybody is busy reviewing those proposals as we look to select an underwriter for your long-term financing. But we work with a lot of utilities in the Northwest, including in Oregon, and we're happy to be here today. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you both. Sarah, did you want to present anything? We got the timeline here if you want to come up and join us for that. Just as a reminder, Dale, this is newer for you as a board member, but we're currently in the process for 2 different types of financing. One is a short-term line of credit that would be used only in emergencies. and until we can get our FEMA reimbursement back in place. So Sarah's been working really hard on that, trying to figure out exactly what the total amount might look like, and we've got an update I think she can share on that tonight. So that's the first piece of it. For emergencies, just in case, we see another storm or some type of power cost event, something unforeseen. It's a tool that we don't plan to use, but will be there if we need it. The second financing that Scott mentioned is our long-term borrow. So our long-term financial plans has continued capital investment over the next many years. This would fund, the next round of that. And we have a long list of projects we shared with the board in December that would be executed between now and about 27, 28. That would be covered through this bond issuance. That's a public bond issuance, so it's different than what we did in 2021 where we went to KeyBank. This is actually going to the bond market, and we can actually have Scott maybe provide a little more color in terms of what that looks like. So it's a much different process than we did last time. We're trying to keep those two things different. Line of credit, long-term borrowing, they're two different things happening sort of in parallel. And so we've got a calendar here that we'll talk about, but the board will be asked to take action over the next several months on both of them. We'll try to point out as much as we can. Here's what this is for, short-term or long-term. But there's going to be a lot of decision-making and actions being requested here. So this is the introduction to that. I can bring up if you want this one, or if we want to go straight to got the short-term. So Sarah can talk more about this.
That'll work. And Scott and Stacy, feel free to chime in if you have any input here. But tonight, coming up on the agenda or a little bit later in the agenda, you will see ordinance 2025-01. That is to begin the process on the short-term line of credit or drawdown facility. I think we've got about 3 different things we refer to this as. Again, this is the short-term line of credit. It gets the clock started on the 30-day public notice, where the public has the opportunity to refer this to a vote. And should there be no referrals, the ordinance will become effective February 13th. And then we will bring a resolution into the board on February 18th with the details of that deal. Scott and company are prepared to issue an RFP out to the banks. They've already made some phone calls on our behalf related to this issuance. So hopefully we'll get some good responses for that.
So if somebody objects from the public, I mean, how many noisy voices do you have to have objecting before it would be a problem?
It might just be one. Stacy, you can probably answer that better than we could.
Not really clear. So bonds can be authorized through resolution or non-emergency ordinance. We went the non-emergency ordinance way, which is also what the district did in 2021. And that requires a 30-day referral period. Non-emergency, a resolution requires 60 days and publication in the newspaper. And for the resolution, it's 5% of the electors to file a petition to refer it to a vote.
Oh,
So again, potentially to 5% or 5%.
Good. Good to know.
So then there will be some work to do behind the scenes for staff and with our consultants to get things put into place. So see how that all goes and how quickly we can get that into place. So where things do kind of collide, if you will, between the short-term and the long-term borrow is that February 18th board meeting. As you can see on the PowerPoint, that is when the ordinance for the long-term borrow will be brought in front of the board. Not to be confused with the resolution for the short-term borrow, which will be on the same board agenda. So again, this is kind of where things start colliding. We are going to do our best to keep things separate for all of you. So wish us luck.
Let's break it up in the meeting, okay? For this part of the meeting, we'll do that and then something else and then.
Well, even more confusing for us is that the resolutions sound very similar. So it talks about capital spending, and it talks about bonding, even though this will be what we consider to be a short-term line of credit. You have to use the language that you have to use, and they have to be very similar. So it's confusing, and we understand that. That's why we're trying to get in front of it here.
Yes. All right, so a few more steps, as you can see, and this is a very boiled down version of steps. Scott and company have sent us a page plus of different steps for staff and Stacy and Scott, and who is going to be our new underwriter. All of these various parties have to get together, and coordinated on all of these different steps. But we wanted to put in front of the board what we thought would be the most relevant and important to you all, especially highlighted in green are the stages where voting will happen. So again, first is the ordinance on February 18th, and that starts the 30-day window. Again, it's a non-emergency ordinance, gives the public those 30 days to to a vote. Losing my words here. And then we'll come back in on March 18th with a resolution. This will be a little bit different than the short-term borrow. It will not include as many details since we are going to the market for this bonding. So Stacy will help us with the language on that, and we'll get you plenty of notice so that you can see what that looks like. But again, it will be slightly different than short-term borrow. Will know the specific terms to be put in the ordinance. The long-term borrow will be similar to what we did back in 2013, which a long time ago, even if you were on the board. So a few more dates of note. The ordinance becomes effective after that board meeting date. We will be going out for a bond rating, which we've talked about just a little bit in previous meetings. We will be posting an offering statement, which we've started to work on internally. Behind the scenes, we'll be working closely with Scott and Stacy on that as well. And then April 2nd is our bond sale date. So very important date on that one. And then few other dates, we'll publish the final offering statement and then the closing of the bonds to happen in mid-April.
Just a couple of notes from my perspective. We plan to put parameters around accessing the funds in both cases. So like we've done with the 2021 bonds, we have to come to the board and say, we have spent this money on qualifying capital projects. Will you release it into our general fund? So we'll continue that with you. Even with the short term though, I think we want to really define for the board under what circumstances we would use that line of credit. We don't want it available just, to cover daily operations. So we'll put our heads together on what that could look like, and make sure that in most cases, the board can hopefully approve if we need to access it. There could be situations if there's a huge snowstorm or something, of course, where we need to do it ourselves, but we'll try to really define what that looks like and make sure the board's comfortable with how that ends up getting used. I think that covers it. I don't know if we wanted to have, since we haven't done a public issuance in a long time, if Scott, you want to maybe go over the process, what the board can expect when it comes down to actually selling bonds and what that looks like versus what we did before.
Sound like Girl Scout did.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, in 2021, we did a direct placement with a bank. And so that's a fairly straightforward process, meaning, looking at this schedule, there would have been, or there was no preliminary official statement. There was no need to go get a bond rating. So that will be different in this process for the long-term bonds. We'll be doing both of those items. As I mentioned earlier, because it's been a while since the district has issued bonds through a public process, your staff thought it would be prudent, and we agreed to go out an RFP for underwriting services. So we sent that request for a statement of qualifications to underwriters in the middle of December. So unfortunate for them, we made them work over the holidays to get a proposal in by 3 p.m. today. We received 6 responses. from some, what I'd say are some marquee names, and also from some bankers with a lot of experience. So I think whichever firm we end up choosing, I think the district's going to be well served by that particular firm. So with the underwriter on board, then the financing will really kick in. That's Stacy's already been working on the legals. So again, the ordinance followed by the resolution, and also on the official statement, which again, with thanks from of course your staff getting information to Stacy. So that's really for the next several weeks, through February into March. It's kind of a documentation review, update, discussions that we'll have as a financing team. When those documents are ready to go, then we do send those on down to Moody's. Will be the likely rating agency, because they are the one that have the rating on your existing bond, your 2013 bonds. So we'll have a review with an analyst from Moody's. Typically, then it takes maybe a week to 2 weeks for after the call to get a rating back. So you see that on the calendar there on the 21st. With the vote by the board complete, the ordinance effective, and the rating in hand, we would then distribute the official statement out to potential investors. So that'll be done via the underwriting firm. And then you see again there on April 2nd is the bond sale. So that would be the day that orders, the underwriter would solicit orders from potential investors. And with those, then the bond sale, the interest rates, the yields, the call provisions, all of that would be then set on April 2nd. A bond purchase agreement would be signed. And then we would move to closing approximately 2 weeks later. And that's when, shown here, April 17th, then funds would be available for the district.
That's really helpful. I guess the reasonable question is why go through all this hassle? Wouldn't we just be better off doing a private placement as before? I think a lot has changed, right? Since 2021, there wasn't much of a rate difference at that time. Everything was low. My understanding, and Scott, you can explain better than I can, there's a sizable difference now to be able to sell tax advantage bonds versus what we did previously. I don't know how big the gap is, but it seems like that's very much to our advantage now to go through this process.
Yeah, we're really back to the times of pre-pandemic, when typically a publicly issued bond would result in lower rates than a typical bank placement. Now, again, there may be opportunities at times to find banks that would provide a lower rate, but generally that's just not what we've been seeing after the pandemic years. Bank lending has tightened up, and therefore rates have increased. Additionally, we would have said going out 20 years on a fixed rate with a bond issue or a bank loan can be a challenge. And again, that's what we see. So through a bond issue, we do expect it to be lower interest rates, and also the ability to structure the debt in any way that makes sense for the district, and to go out as long as we want. So we are contemplating either 20 or 25. I mean, we will look at 30 years, but again, I think the discussion has been somewhere between the 20 and 25 years. So a public issuance will allow us to do all of that.
Just a terminology, the bonds these are what we refer to as municipal bonds, marketplace.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, and Stacy can get the legal part is about the board ever purchasing these bonds, which I believe you should not do. However, yes, you as an individual holder, conceivably could be holding municipal bonds of a different entity in your portfolio, and that's exactly right. I mean, these initially will be probably sold to money managers, potentially insurance companies on the longer dated ones. But in secondary market trades, they could eventually end up in folks' portfolio as, yes, tax exempt municipal bonds.
Rate doesn't lock in until the day of the sale.
Yeah. So we won't know the actual rate or specific terms until the day of the sale. Is that right?
Yes, that's when it'll be locked in. With the underwriter and, we will be able to, at any point in time, have a very good idea that, if the bonds were, able to be sold today, these are the, interest rates we would expect. But yes, so again, we'll have a pretty good idea as we go through this where rates are and what the cost of the financing is. But until the bonds are actually sold and priced, they won't be locked in, but on that day, they will be locked in.
That contrasts with the short-term line of credit. We'll next month bring back a resolution that has all of the terms, rate, interest rate, all that will be dialed in, so you'll be able to vote on something very specific at that point.
That's a short-term
Right.
line of credit.
That'll be another resolution. So tonight's ordinance is to start the window that would refer it potentially if somebody wanted to. You'll have a second chance to vote on the line of credit next month with specific terms and conditions around our recommendation as a staff.
And sorry. And I understand the short-term line of credit is to add till we get reimbursed from.
It's ideally never gonna be used. It's there just in case there's an emergency like another storm. We're fine cash flow wise right now. Having another ice storm or something would put us in a really tough spot, and we don't wanna get to that point. If we can avoid it.
So it's kind of a bridge to FEMA.
Exactly.
And once the FEMA,
I think assuming FEMA comes in, there's some discussion around whether we need to have a line of credit ongoing. We won't probably have the same need that we have right now, but we've talked about it in the past as maybe being a tool that we want to keep around, so it's an option for the board to consider.
Did we discuss it, keep us in compliance with our parameter?
It can help with that, yeah. There is some cost, as you saw in there.
Balance
Yeah.
the annual charges or
Yeah.
whatever against whether we use it or not. Yeah. How long have we how have we determined the length of time and the amount limits on it at this point?
Yes, sir's done some additional
I
or
don't
some
know
more
if you
analysis
released
around the
exact numbers,
amounts.
But have you settled in
Well-
about what terms we're looking at or?
So Kyle and I discussed this morning at linking it to the major capital upgrade portion of our capital plan. It's a little tough to know what really to link this
We
to.
understand.
Not an exact science, yeah.
Yeah, so
I think the theory, if you see the way the ordinance is written, it's to cover capital work. There are reasons for that. It allows us to issue these as tax advantage, and there's other reasons that we would use this just for capital. And that's got to be the case. So in my mind, if we had a big event, let's say a storm or power cost, we want to keep our capital program alive. We're not just going to turn our capital program off.
Yeah.
So we want to have an amount that would allow us to keep that major system upgrade amount going. It's about $8 million a year, so that's kind of where we're landing on, is somewhere in that neighborhood. Term length, I think these are annually renewed, is that right? Or we know, Scott, what that would look like?
Not necessarily, no. It'll depend on what we ask the bank. What we've talked about is potentially for a term of a year, but that would mean then that it expires at the end of that year.
So, a couple of questions. One is the fees, I remember. 8,000, how long is that? So a short-term line of credit, maybe you just answered that. How long is that good for?
Oh,
before
right.
You have to pay another fee.
Yeah. Well, I guess that would depend on the term. That might be an argument if we're worried about it to have a longer term, if it's an upfront cost of issuance. But I would assume there's gonna be some cost every time we want to renew it.
Pretty common for operating lease to be renewed every year.
Yeah,
Reevaluated, I should say.
would you see that as being an annual cost, Scott? The cost for setting this up every year, or how does that usually work?
Well, yeah. So again, I think it would be a different ask to the banks if this was a more of an ongoing line of credit that you wanted to keep for liquidity, as opposed to a shorter term, 1 year type that gets you past an emergency event prior to a FEMA reimbursement. So I guess it would be, again, if it's a longer term, then I think the upfront fees for like Stacy and myself, and then if there's a bank fee, that should be just a one-time type thing. Of course, unused commitment fees, if that comes from a bank, would be an annual type, or they may charge it on a quarterly basis. So again, that would then go for the term of the bonds or the term of the line of the credit. So again, I think it depends on the flavor we're looking at. I also would expect that if we asked for, say a 3-year line of credit as opposed to a 1-year line of credit, the rate likely would be different.
Maybe we've got to go with a 1-year arrangement and evaluate.
We can always
what it's done for us
reevaluate
or
it,
not
yeah.
In a year.
This goes back to my wondering on the FEMA reimbursement.
Well, yeah, Kurt, that's
Not
interesting.
only, you kind of got an answer.
Yeah, we kind of do, we know the actual interest that you would pay on this would be reimbursable, what's not clear.
If we can link it
Right.
directly to the, the disaster.
Well, our lack of funds
Yeah,
is, there's
we
no
would,
other
I think we
reason.
could make that case, hopefully they would accept that, right, that we've used our own cash and now we're having to replenish it. There's a good argument, I think, for that. What was less clear was these upfront fees and whether that's gonna qualify. We've got a request into our FEMA contact and I don't think we've heard back yet.
We haven't heard back. I mean, I don't expect a yay or nay answer.
Go up the chain.
What they did tell us is we can't get back the lost interest on our cash that we've used, which is unfortunate. It seems like that sets up a bit of a moral hazard where you would want to go out and borrow as opposed to using your cash in these circumstances. But that's the answer we got is you can't get the lost interest that you would have had otherwise.
So what would happen if we didn't do this and we had a disaster and we, unlike the state forestry, just don't pay your bills for a few months? I guess that would.
Well, I think our credit rating goes down at that point, but other than that,
Would our short term here, because of $12 million unexpected expenditure, will that affect our bond rating?
good question.
I mean, if they take a snapshot of this year, it's way different.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about that. Maybe Scott can fill us in
How do
here.
they-
Our current situation, Scott, having absorbed this big cost and seeing that we're having to take out this line of credit, how does that factor into our bond rating here? And certainly there's a narrative we can tell.
I think you're right, Kyle. Yeah, liquidity is definitely an area, one of the most important areas that the rating agencies will look at. That and coverage. So how much net revenue do you have over the debt service that you have to pay? I think, as was stated, there's a story here. You've had expenditures you expect reimbursement from. I think additionally, should this line of credit be available, I think we'll be able to point to that as liquidity, because again, there isn't an intention to actually draw on that incurring additional debt. Again, it's really meant for liquidity. So I think, again, days cash on hand will be looked at by the rating agency, but I do believe that there's a good story to tell here.
Could have a positive impact potentially. Let's see, what else? Cover everything. I think the idea of just keeping this all straight is going to be the challenging thing. There's going to be several motions we bring into the board, so feel free, please ask questions as we process through all this.
So worst case scenario, we don't get any FEMA money. How do we pay for this line of credit?
Well, again, we've designed our budget so that, assuming there's no second ice storm or assuming the power markets don't blow up, we'll be okay. We've got cash to be able to fund operations and this work. Assuming we get the long-term borrow done, that's a big part of our financial plans. If FEMA doesn't come back, we'll be able to make up for it over time. We may have to do slightly higher rate increases down the road at some point, but FEMA.
We'll be really upset if we don't get that money.
We'll raise absolute hell if that doesn't come through, honestly. But,
Right,
but if it doesn't, we've designed our budgets to be able to absorb that. We don't assume anything for FEMA in our ongoing budgets. So that was intentional, just knowing what that process looks like. It's not a given that happens.
So if I remember right, didn't EWEB put it into their rates? They're putting money into an account for a storm that hasn't happened. They're saving different than what we're doing. They're putting it on the rate bears before it even happens.
I've heard something about that. Was that EWEB? I don't know all the details, but I have heard a strategy around that, which seems you're assuming a storm's going to happen every so often, and then you pay forward, we're gonna pay in advance, yeah,
I heard.
that's interesting. I don't know.
That's a thought, yeah.
I don't know how customers would feel about that.
Well,
Probably
no,
not.
it's not a good idea because of the short term.
That's just the question whether the ratepayers are gonna bear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is interesting, it sort of links to the question we had at the Finance and Rates Committee about, you know, should we be planning our budgets to allow for a little bit more storm activity?
Yeah. We've really tried to balance as much as we can rates and this FEMA process and not going overboard, but also making sure that we meet all our financial parameters. It's a hard balancing act. We could go to the ratepayers and say, hey, we need to be very conservative here, make sure if FEMA doesn't show up, we're gonna have as much cash as we would ever need. We tried to really balance that and say, let's keep rates as stable as possible. So we did a pretty moderate increase this year. But you know, I don't know where that is. It's a lot more art than science sometimes when it comes to rate making and what you should put on customers, how much cash you should keep on hand. We do have some nice tools like this line of credit that we can tap into and be able to have that. So we're not having to front load as much and hopefully we don't have to use it, but it's there if we do. So we're trying to hit every base here and it's definitely a balancing act to be able to get through this in a way that keeps our customers, you know, well protected, but also doesn't sock them with undue rate increases.
Yeah, and I think those strategies have hold.
Yeah, they have to, yeah. Separate from all this is our long-term discussion about capital improvements. So we've got an item on the agenda tonight to ask customers about how much capital improvement do you want to pay for it long-term? That is a discussion point that we'll want to get to with the board here at some point as well, because we'll borrow, you know, some additional money that'll cover us for a few more years, but eventually it's going to be, you know, do we want to continue to spend at these levels, or is there a point where we've done what we can on reliability or as much as we think we can? And customers have kind of hit a limit. So those are all ongoing discussions we're going to have to talk about in terms of how much to put on customers, how much do we want to, you know, manage ourselves.
I mean, it makes sense also to say that we do actually currently fund part of our CapEx through rates.
A good portion, yeah, a good portion.
Our net income combined with our borrowing is what funds.
Yep. We did a pretty big step increase in capital spending back in 2021, and that was purposeful. We said, we're gonna hit the gas on this, we're gonna try to really spend up, and we've done a lot of good stuff. This next borrow will be the second phase of that. We've still got a lot of good projects to do out there, but that's probably not something we can do forever, you know, borrowing money every 3 or 4 years. Maybe we can get away with that, but it at some point there'll be a breaking point. We have to decide, is enough enough?
So all of your cash flow issues and the potential need for short-term borrowing doesn't take into consideration our reserve for rate stabilization.
No, that's separate.
I know that's separate, but that's money that I suppose in some catastrophe.
I believe that's part of our cash on hand.
It is part of our cash.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is part of that.
It wouldn't be.
But it has-
It is restricted.
Remember, we upped that, what, $500,000?
Yeah,
last year?
and
That's what I was-
the special piece of that, the thing that sets that apart is it has a positive impact on our debt service coverage. So if we got into a year where a power cost thing blew up on us, we could use that as income essentially or revenue to make that look better. But it's cash like any other cash we have on hand essentially when it comes to the calculations that we use.
And I think for myself personally, over the last 5 years, you know, I've asked about the rate stabilization fund pretty often, 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
It may be, it's almost become kind of a straw man sitting there. Do we really need it? Is it really doing what we think it's doing?
Yeah,
Is it just another place we can rattle?
That is a.
well, the thing.
Stash away.
What it really is, it's a rainy day fund for operations, so
I
again,
would say it's a tool,
tool,
even more than it is a fund. It's at the Oregon State Local Government Investment Board, earning the same rate as
Yeah,
the rest,
sure.
or most of the rest of our cash. So it's not, it's not sitting someplace where it's not earning interest. It's, you know, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. The difference is that it takes board action for us to be able to use those funds, and also then has an impact on how we are able to calculate our debt.
I think it's reasonable to say, especially after we go back, and move to a load following product with BPA. Is $4 million the right number? We can do some more analysis around that. We certainly won't have the volatility that we have today with our power costs. And that's really what that's for, is if we had a bad power cost event that was gonna make us miss our debt service coverage, that money's there to be able to absorb.
Kind of had one of those.
We did,
and-
yeah.
And we were able to,
Yeah, it would have been there if we needed it. Luckily we didn't need to, but yeah, that's.
But maybe we
that's
should just change the name of it.
We could do that
we
too.
could do that.
Come up with more creative thing.
Call it the Sarah Klein Fund.
Yeah, we'll name it after somebody.
Sarah
That's
Klein.
I thought you would,
Yeah.
Much fun. The Ron Davis Safety Fund.
There you go.
We digress, yeah.
Moving on. Scott or Stacy, anything else we missed? Do you think would be worth pointing out?
Not from my perspective, no, I think you've captured it all here today.
Great.
Great. We do have some time, if we want to, on the workshop agenda in February 4th, to talk more about this. We've covered quite a bit tonight, more than I thought we would, so we'll see, how much more the board would like to get information on, but there's plenty of chance next month also to get up to speed. Yeah.
Thank you.
So real quick, doing the bonds is much more stable and the rates are lower, and cost us less.
The rate should, yeah.
Yeah, a public bond issuance versus for a similar term, a bank loan, yes, I expect it would be it's more cost effective to do the public bond issuance.
Takes a lot more work though.
They can.
That is true.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for coming. I really appreciate it.
Stacy?
They're confused.
Of course. Would you like us to stay around for, I guess, item 16?
Oh, it's gonna be, anybody have questions specifically about the ordinance on tonight's agenda? We're asking for a vote on, okay?
No.
I think we're good.
Pretty clear.
We're good.
Okay.
We did it once before, we
Yeah.
can do it again.
Thank you both for joining
All right.
us.
All right. Thank you both. Bye-bye.
So, moving on.
Good.
State of utility speech. With my extended tenure as board president, I was excited
Working on this, yeah.
to give a state of the utility speech, which
You don't want to get fired this early.
With your minutes of experience.
Right.
you're right. Yeah, so, this is a little personalized, but it's, and it'll be fairly brief. So I think we need to, so looking back, in my few years here, it was an extraordinary year due to some extraordinary events. Several of them not positive for the utility. Obviously, the first was the ice storm, losing 80% of our service in our area, a $12 million cost. 135 outside linemen. And a big item is the consuming time of our staff. They're a big chunk, not only the 10 or 12 days was focused, but the ongoing during the year. So that was a big effect on both for money and the effort to get FEMA reimbursement since the storm. So, and all the rebuilding of our inventory that we've had to do. So that the ice storm was a short period of time that just took a chunk out of our whole staff for the year. So that was a big, to me, negative effect. The IMERF, the Lane County's decision to construct their facility outside of the landfill and deprive us of fuel for our electrical generation facilities. That's taken an effort both on our staff, on the board, on our ratepayers. So far to no avail. It's not done yet. It's not built. The ground hasn't been disturbed. So we'll see. So that was a big negative for us. And what that created was our whole change in direction of Short Mountain. That was all based on other people's decisions that created a situation for us where we had to essentially do a 180 on what we were going to do at Short Mountain. So we had to decide we're shutting down our electrical generation by 2028 and looking for replacement resources. Which also created the efforts to enter the market to sell our rights to our contract, which again takes a lot of staff time and effort, which in ordinary times could be used for our normal capital upgrades. I guess one maybe good thing was our power supply options with Bonneville that we're switching due to the market conditions, switching, from our block slice to load following. And again, that might have not been a decision without Short Mountain. And all of those are outside decisions that we're reacting to outside influences. So
Good point.
then we discovered through starting the facility study, our need to expand our operational facilities. That's going to be interesting to see where that goes. In lieu of all of the negatives, I think we had an absolutely outstanding safety record this year. That's to me is so important. In my industry experience, that's been such a big influence in construction is to have a good safety record, not only financially, but to protect your workers mainly. So we've done that. We made, I think, $9 million improvement to our own distribution system. In doing that, we've limited our rate increase to 5%. When you look around at all of the other utilities, they're all, that's on the bottom end of anybody's rate increase. And then after all of that, we're still fairly sound financially. We're not in anywhere close to panic mode. So that's looking back. Looking ahead, I think it's going to be a busy year. You can call it exciting, interesting, or scary. Some of the stuff we have to decide to do. The future path at Short Mountain, what direction that's going to go. Our future facility needs, how that's going to play out. And the potential of starting the process, maybe to look at some of our adjoining utilities on expanding our system. So that's where they are. So I think, again, in my extended experience as board president of providing this, I think we just looking ahead, keep our same values, our members' rates, and the level of service. So I think that's our bottom line goal still. So that's the end of the state of the utility.
All right.
Good job.
Well, thank you. Chris.
Thank you, President Offenbacher.
Yeah. Appreciate the reference to the safety record. That's our number one focus here too.
Yeah.
Getting through that ice storm, especially without any major incidents, was
That's
incredible.
Amazing.
And not only our crew, but everybody else is added in.
Yeah.
And the coordination that took to keep in probably some of the most dangerous.
You couldn't walk across your yard during that thing. Getting any real work done.
Unbelievable what the staff did here. I like a quote, I think it's from the Lord of the Rings, but you don't get to choose the times that you're born into. It's all about how you react to the situation that you're dealt. And the ice storm certainly is one example of that. The IMERF is another one. And I think we're doing the best we can with the end weekly help here.
We're trying.
Still staying resilient, still pushing forward.
I mean, it's been a bit frustrating reacting.
Yeah.
We seem to be.
You gotta deal what comes in the door.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can play a little offense this year.
So. We're
Robert.
All right.
onward, treasurer's report.
That's you.
Treasurer.
Sarah. Does Sarah want to say anything, or is she still here?
Sarah?
I mind.
What are your space?
I pre-read it, but I don't know if you want to add anything. It came to this thing, so.
You've had a few minutes.
I have been, myself,
There you go. Sort of a trio to draw to.
you gotta see your team going on here.
You did it, great.
Well, I'll start us off with a couple of things like usual. If that's okay with you.
Nice big 6-figure numbers.
Yeah, General Pacific, number one. So the majority of that payment is for pad mount transformers. So the first line of that item was approved. Is being requested to be approved retroactively tonight, actually. So we'll talk about that, when that line item comes up. The second line and third line did not require board approval based on the purchase order amounts, but they went through our normal channels. They were purchased through the state contract. Line item number 2 is to Annixter, and the majority of that payment was for 4 line regulators. And those were approved by the board back in July of 2023. Sure.
Maybe to Doug,
Yeah.
are those Doug replacements for ones we already had, or are they improvements and to allow better control?
We've talked in the past about the ties between substations.
Right.
These will be, we got some smaller ones for more outlying areas, but the bulk of those expenses are for the large units that are gonna be between the substations.
I see, and it's for regulated voltage, correct?
That's correct.
Got it,
Yep.
okay.
So that one that's 158,047, that's for 3 of them?
4, well, hold on.
But there's-
So, there was an order for 6 large units and 3 smaller units, and they've been staggering the delivery.
Ah.
And we'll be getting them at different times, and
This is for 5.
No, actually, Patty, you are correct. The 158,000 is for 3 of them, 42,649 is
The other
one
ones.
of them.
Which is
and
really
there
expensive.
are 5
Big.
more on order.
Well, as long as they're working.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
About 40,000 a pop, huh? They have pretty lights on them or anything? Yeah, they're really nice.
no, they come with a really cool sound system.
And AC.
We spent the extra money, got them under lit and stuff. They're pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Change for Valentine's Day.
Everybody's a smart
All
mouth.
right.
Get done and go home.
Yep, let's get back to this.
Reel them in.
Item 17 for Echo Engineers. This was the external or is the external consultant that is supporting us through the potential sale of the Short Mountain landfill gas rights. So that'll be talked about quite a bit in a later agenda item. And then item number 34, Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems. I thought this one might come up as a question. It's not a huge dollar amount for $5,000. It's our contribution to the JOE. Actually, I just wanted to say that out loud. The Joint Operating Entity, which is part of the new BPA provider of choice contracts.
Right.
So TEA is leading the charge on this one. It sounds like good meetings so far. And so the feasibility assessment is expected to wrap up in March, and that will determine if the group moves forward. Did I get that?
Yep.
Wasn't Utah Associated, weren't they the ones that pulled out of one of the atomic?
Yeah, they were doing the new scale project.
Resource development.
Is it new?
Pioneers end up with aerospace.
Yeah, Utah, Idaho,
That's what I thought.
This will ultimately play into product choice in the next contract and whether we want to consider
Being part of the
moving
joint.
back to some kind of slice block arrangement if we were part of the big group. This is kind of an idea that they had. We talked about it in August with the board and said, well, let's at least do the feasibility study and see if it can pencil out. I think it's a long shot, but we'll see.
Thank you.
I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the rest? Kurt does.
I have 2 quick ones just for item 6. I just interested, Elkins Earthworks for, I don't know what SM control valves are, but Earthworks. Is that something?
Short Mountain is an SM,
Control
Short
valves?
Mountain control valves. It might
They're a
help.
specialty item, it was only made by Elkins. I don't remember, basically the way I think you adjust, I think the flows for positive and negative,
It's just the
might have to
name
get
of the
back to all
company
that.
versus what they're,
Yeah, it's creative. A lot of this is pretty
Jason can tell you more
specialized.
about it.
okay,
Don't have it.
something short.
Yeah.
The item 12.
That's short.
Raw,
Pipe for
let's
the
say,
short
wood,
mountain wells.
SM pipe.
Yeah, short mountain.
Oh, short.
Yeah,
mountain pipe.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I didn't know what.
You're hitting all the short
kind of
mountain.
pipe that
Yeah.
was, so-
Yeah,
Okay.
That's our little
That's the only thing I
Yeah.
have.
I have a quick question. Does anybody, do our operations people have any fears about transformer issues going forward thanks to California? Is that gonna change?
Crisis.
Are you guys thinking about
I'm
planning?
concerned, but I'm
purchases?
not, I think it'll be a blip in the radar and having a year or two supply in the yard, thanks to you guys.
But we're in pretty good shape that way.
Makes me sleep at night. Barring a big lightning storm,
yeah.
catastrophic.
Well, you've taught us all to be concerned about big weather disasters all over the country, and so I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I
Of course,
think,
this isn't over yet.
Well, we're aware of it, like, we actually are gonna be pulling the pin on some underground cable that we found like 17,000 feet, right?
so
So
we're just talking.
we found a little opportunity, we're gonna get it, so we'll pick it up here and there, things like that.
Buying opportunities.
Yeah, because we think that once the smoke clears, it's gonna get a bit ugly for a little while. Price will go up.
Sure.
And demand will go up. Yeah, we should be still in good shape.
I heard from a contractor friend that he heard from two different pipe wholesalers that prices are going up because of the LA fires.
Sure.
So it's a good
Just in
excuse.
case, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is we have a large project that goes under I-5. I can't order that wire because it's very expensive per foot. So I need a pretty real-time footage on that. We'll buy it custom reels. If I bought it tomorrow, it's 50+ weeks out. So
Yeah.
we need to get the bore done, do that, and then cross our fingers that California doesn't need 42 million feet of it. That puts it on 2 years.
Fair enough. Anything else? Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, is that an unusual number of transfer switch rebates? Looks like there's 20, 30 of them.
Those things are flying
Are
off
we
the shelf.
doing that every month?
They're
Yeah.
flying off the
I
shelf.
thought that was great.
Where are we at on
Yeah,
that,
me too.
Charles?
Yeah,
I mean,
somebody's got the message.
yeah, I don't remember seeing them on the last.
It's
check.
incredible
They're
how
different
many
than
we're
any of them.
doing, yeah.
Yeah, I tried, I don't remember which
I
meeting
tell
it was,
everybody.
but we were here, give you guys an update on that. And I think we left it with like, there's a lot still in the hopper, right? I think this is the hopper. And it's every week, we're sending out 4, 5, 6 a week.
Yeah,
It's just, it's really popular, it's easy, we've made it easy for
yeah,
customers.
no,
And,
kudos to the staff for seeing a way to do this.
Yeah.
So that it limited our exposure.
We definitely hit a nerve and it's a lot of customer engagement that we've really sought out in other programs that we've really achieved in this one. So that's
Customers
good.
love this, yeah. I was out with a couple servicemen on ride-alongs when they would do these, and they make the customers so happy. They get out there and install this, because it was cheap and it was easy and,
They feel prepared
Yeah.
too,
I had
right?
I had a freight delivery just before Christmas and the driver had come from Portland that morning and he said he unloaded 21 generators in different locations.
Yeah.
South of Junction City. Everybody and their dog's buying generators.
the word's out.
Yeah.
If they better figure out how to use mine.
I had just one note on item 4, which was the higher ground invoice. I talked to Dale about this. There's listings of inspections on there. It's a little bit ambiguous. Those are joint use inspections. So higher grounds contractor that does a lot of things for us. They'll do underground jobs, small undergrounds, but they also do a lot of inspections on our joint use. So when that occurs, there's a process that we bill that back to the comm companies that we do the inspections on. So all that's reimbursable. if You see inspections on there.
Anybody have anything else?
So, President's report, I'm gonna retitle that to former president's report.
the only things that I wanna bring up. Because it's the first of the year, for most of the organizations, last couple of months are pretty quiet. So there's not really a lot to report there. The NWPPA has the wildfire conference and the power resources conference in Portland, the end of the month, and I'll be attending both of those, and I assume I'll be going to be there.
Rob and I are both going to both of them, I think.
I'm going to.
Okay.
Maybe we should all carpool together.
No.
We'll be a separate hotel.
My son's not gonna put them all up.
Yeah. We're, Rob, and I are gonna be giving a presentation on Short Mountain at the Power Supply Conference.
Good.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about, what could have been and how difficult it is to develop resources in this environment.
Probably not.
I'll find out if there's a recording or sometime.
Or recording, I just hate it, Mr.
That's all right. Well, we'll get to the presentation.
Also, for Oputa this year, we need to renew our delegates and alternates. I assume you're fine with continuing to be the delegate. Happily be the alternate. If everybody's okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, maybe.
You're the treasurer. I don't know what they do without you.
I'll probably get fired next month.
That's a job to light that month.
Depending on whether Sarah can save us.
Yeah,
You can retire if you want, but you can't quit.
so legislative updates, they're really not, I think it's gonna be wild.
It's getting going. I saw there were like 500 bills that have been filed already.
Well,
I've got a little bit of that in my GM report. There's gonna be some hot topics.
Sit down.
I'm gonna,
Sit
at
down.
the Oputa meeting next week, I'm gonna ask the question during the LOC. The more we see about, particularly this effort by legislators to pass a law that will prevent the IOUs from raising rates if they have a pending lawsuit. You know, we're seeing a lot of media coverage of that, and the media does not differentiate between IOUs and COUs. And it seems to me like there's gonna be a point as this narrative evolves that we need to start telling the media what that difference is. We love to hear that Citicorp went up by 17%, but I think that there's a point where we should be reminding them that's not happening in your public utilities. Yeah, where rates are going up, not anywhere near those kinds of things.
No, definitely within 5 years.
That's part of the discussion earlier, is we're fighting to keep rates moderate. We have to keep them increasing, but we're trying not to do what the IOUs are.
Hey, and that's all I got for.
Thank you. GM report.
Okay. I'm gonna keep this a little briefer tonight, hopefully, but I say that every time, so we'll see how this goes. Just a reminder, Kirk covered a lot of this, but 1 year ago today, we were dealing with this. I believe it was.
Canceled the next meeting.
The 12th and the 13th was when things kind of settled in, and we got a couple days of relief and made progress, and then again, I think it was the 15th that we had the second wave come through. Tuesday night, darkest day in EPUD's history. So just a reminder of what we were dealing with, and you said it well, Kurt, we're still dealing with it. We're cleaning up. We have a number of services out there that still need to be, they're temped up, but they need to staff come back out and deal with them. FEMA is a work in process. We're still dealing with the aftermath of this whole thing. The pictures are just almost unreal at this point. You go back and think about what we're dealing with. It's incredible.
Pretzels.
Yeah.
Hard to believe that was what we had going on. Ultimately, I think this became a real story of our staff pulling off something pretty amazing. If you go back and look at how many people were here, what everybody was stepping into, that guy in the middle is familiar there. Right? Who's that?
Ron Davis.
Where is that?
Got Mr. Olson over here. He was man in the warehouse for us out there. We had our crews come in all over the place. Really, it was the toughest moment, but kind of the proudest moment for the staff around here. And everybody still talks about it. This will live on for a very long time. And it goes to the inside folks, to customer service, all the folks here make this happen. Ultimately, I think we did what we could for customers. Again, tough hand to be dealt, but real proud of how everybody handled themselves to make this all work. And we learned a lot. We're going to continue to work on it, but appropriate to take a moment here and remember what we were dealing with a year ago.
No, and I just want to throw in there, you alluded to the fact that it really was largely a success story, despite the
Yeah.
devastation that we dealt with, and I think it offered an amazing contrast between ourselves and our neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people saw it remarkably.
We still hear about it. It's funny, like I going out to do some of these transfer switches. I'll just be out there and be like, hey, aren't you the Facebook guy? Yeah.
Did you ask for your autograph yet?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Did you get a selfie?
Like, you guys were great. Well, these are the guys that don't work, and I was just making sure you do. Yeah.
Movie star.
But you're right. I mean, these situations can become opportunities, and it was a chance for us to show how we're different. We did our best with it.
You did a good job, really good.
It was a definition of a team effort to make all this happen.
And we may never see another ice cream.
Let's hope.
God forbid, it took 43 years for me to see one
Yeah.
like that here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
speak
think
for
the real
yourself.
lesson was, could you plan for that? No, I don't think you could.
Yeah.
But the real question I think that we answered was, can we adapt quickly enough to turn this thing around?
We learned a lot. That thing pushed us about to our brink. Had we had any more, it would have been calling in to help.
17% of our system.
We couldn't do much more, I gotta say, but so proud of everybody that made that happen, so. So good topic here on the legislature. I just wanted to flag a few state and regional issues going into the new year that I'm gonna be paying attention to and that you may want to watch as well. So one of them, is obviously wildfire. This is gonna be a huge issue. A lot of conversations happening about it. You can see here, the PUC earlier this month, I think it was maybe last month, said Oregonians have an interest in the solvency of their electric utilities, and unbounded wildfire verdicts can threaten that interest. This is on everybody's minds. It's in the legislature. I think ultimately where this ends up is going to be really interesting, whether they go to cap liability or whether they have different standards of care that we all have to meet now to get that liability protection. There's some really interesting conversations happening on this. I don't think that they're quite public yet, but as you see them come to fruition, there's going to be some decision points on how much we want to participate in a new system that the state is sort of shepherding to give you some more protection versus what we have today, which we think is capped, on port claim, but hasn't been tested. So a lot more to come here in terms of how the legislature handles this, but the IOUs, this is their number one issue. PGE, Pacific, they have all of their top lawyers on this. They're going to be hounding the legislature to get some kind of reform passed. So how it impacts the COUs will be really interesting to see.
Yeah, and I just hate the idea that the state's going to reward the IOUs who were not investing where they should.
Yeah, and that's the hangup, that everybody's all for protecting utilities, but where have you been the last 20 years? There's definitely moral hazard there to deal with. The other one related to that is rate increase legislation. Our buddies across the way, another 10% rate increase, 50% since 2021. Is that Pacific Power rates are 50% higher than they were in 2021.
And PGE's largely.
They're right there too. So you saw this, Charles made reference to it. A set of Republican lawmakers have proposed a bill that no more rate increases until you settle all the wildfire lawsuits that are out there. Pacificor has billions of dollars of outstanding wildfire lawsuits, so we'll see where that goes. I think this is the same House bill or maybe a different one that was just filed. Limits the amount by which a public utility may increase a rate or schedule of rates. So they're really talking about taking over the PUC authority for rate setting here. This is another one that says the PUC will look into the economic impact of a proposed rate or schedule of rates if it leads to certain revenue results. There's some standards for what that looks like, but they're getting deep into this. This is right now just IOUs, so consumer-owned utilities are not being, put in the same category. But boy, that's a lot farther than they've ever gone before when it comes to rates. Usually that's a PUC function. The legislature's finally taken a look at what's going on with the affordability here. So we'll see where that goes. EPA organized market decision. This is coming pretty soon. So there are a lot of headlines around this. Does Bonneville join the California market, or does Bonneville join this market in the Southwest Power Pools, SPP? big implications. This is kind of a new one for you probably, but it's really worth paying attention to. California wants our hydropower and they're trying to link us up with them. Bonneville is sort of planting a flag and saying, we're not gonna let that happen. And there's a lot of political pressure. Senators are involved, governors are involved. They're really exerting a lot of pressure to move toward California, but so far Bonneville is holding firm. This was in the latest clearing up. It says no decisions have been made, but they do plan to follow their schedule, which is a record of decision, a draft in March and a final decision in May. So that's coming right up. And I would expect there'll be a significant backlash if it doesn't go the way that some of the folks are hoping. So we'll see. Huge implication. This may be the biggest impact to us and to other regional utilities of anything that we're talking about.
It'll be huge.
What's the mechanism for replacing Hairston? If they want to get.
I think he's at will. I think that can happen. Yeah.
Or who makes
DOE.
the charge?
Yeah, the DOE, so there's a new energy secretary. Typically, well, I shouldn't say that. There's not a hard rule. It's happened both ways, but they'll leave the person or they'll get rid of them.
Yeah, it does.
This will be interesting. Yeah. I think he's fought the good fight. So I'm not sure how much longer he wants that job, honestly.
Yeah, I would think that the new administration would favor the idea that the Northwest doesn't want to be under California's thumb.
I hope so. Yeah.
That would be a big help.
Whether they know why or not.
It's not gonna change our congressional delegation.
The fundamental issue with this California option, Dale, is more for your benefit, that is controlled by the California legislature. So their market is just fundamentally broken from a governance perspective. We're gonna be at the whims of whatever their lawmakers decide. And Bonneville's extremely worried about that. And they've been out front about the whole thing. They came to Apuda back in November, I think it was, to give us a little spiel, so. This is gonna be right on us. I hope they can stand firm. PPC, River Partners, everybody's trying to have their back here, but there's a lot of political pressure on this one, so we'll see where it goes. The Columbia Basin Agreement, this was the big, 12-14 agreement this time last year that was agreed to between the states, Oregon, Washington, the federal government, and the tribes. It said we're gonna put a path in place to replace the Snake River dams. And now we have a new administration coming in. It's gonna be really interesting to see how this moves forward. I've highlighted this article. This was in one of the Lewiston papers. And I think it gets to the fundamental decision point that we have on our side of the fence, which is, do we push to just get rid of the agreement altogether? That's where, it said it's possible the Trump administration could kill the agreement. However, and that sounds good, but that's just gonna lead to litigation. They've already said as much. And so what I like about River Partners, and I was on the board meeting the other day talking about this, is their position is, can we work inside that agreement and sort of get rid of the stuff we don't like? The agreement has a stay of litigation for at least 5 years, could be up to 10 years. So although it would feel good to come in and just get rid of that thing, there are some benefits to it if we can get rid of the worst parts. And so that's the nuance that's gonna be on the table.
I was wondering when I read all that there are some environmental studies we don't want to have happen.
Yeah. Well,
And so I'm wondering what-
there's this new environmental impact statement we just paid $55 million for in 2021.
Yeah,
And they want to do it again because they didn't like the answer, which said that salmon can coexist with
fine.
hydropower.
Didn't I read somewhere that originally they killed the supplemental EIS?
No, they put a notice of intent to move forward on it. I think the question is whether it's far enough along they can't kill it yet, or the new administration will try to. It's sort of a zombie study at this point because nothing's gonna happen with the current.
Well, it's pretty close.
Yeah. So anyway, I like the way River Partners is going on this. I've got a little more on that in just a minute here. And the last one I flagged was Bonneville Independence. So it seems every so often this idea comes up, but let's sell the Bonneville transmission system, or let's sell Bonneville Power at market rates to bring in a bunch of money for the federal government. That always comes up and never goes anywhere. I think what's different this time, and this was a prediction in Clearing Up, they do their annual predictions. They said this is gonna happen again. There's a new focus on government efficiency right now, as you may have heard. And is this something that hits the list of this effort from Elon Musk and others to bring in a bunch of money by selling the Bonneville transmission system? Could happen. Hasn't gone anywhere previously, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Something to watch. Those are the regional things I would just, bring to your attention. Every time this year in January, we pay our annual dues for trade associations. I always like to flag this so you can see what we've joined and what we're paying for. So, the short list would be, APPA, Northwest Public Power Association, River Partners, OPUDA and PPC are kind of the big ticket ones. I think we're getting value out of all these. I think if you had to ask me what is the money most well spent, I really think River Partners is doing great work for us for the amount that we're paying in.
They've changed it, I mean, they've turned the public, they've had a good effect.
Yeah.
They've had some effect, and
They shifted
done-
strategy about 10 years ago
Mhm.
where they used to take the other side in court. They used to be litigators. And instead what they've done now is move to public opinion and trying to shift the narrative around hydropower. And I think they're having a much better impact doing that. And so, a quick note on that. So I talked to Clark, who's the executive director. They did a dues calculation change. So our dues could have gone down. His ask though was to keep them the same and support their campaign that they have on hydropower. It's called Our Power is Water. And just to keep our dues flat instead of reducing them. I told him I thought that the board would be fine with that. But ultimately that's your decision on whether to do that. Our River Partners dues could have gone down this year by a few $1,000s, but he was asking if we would keep it the same and just pay more into their hydro campaign, which is a public relations thing. So I told him I thought that would be acceptable. Most of their members pay into that campaign. It's used to kind of support hydropower messaging, other things that are out there. Probably can't read a lot of that. We pay about 24,000 a year, 23,000 a year.
Figure out what that red dot is.
That's a cell comment for SDAO. I don't know what the comment was. Probably says this.
So.
How have you
I
sent?
think
have you sent
Opuda's
those to
gonna,
I
us?
have to, yeah.
And the previous one.
Opuda's probably gonna, it'll go down.
OPUDA could go down, yeah.
This document is in the board of workspace. You want to see
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yes.
I wonder, is the most recent one in there?
Not if you have.
Probably
Okay.
not.
I can send this to you. That's one question I have about these GM reports, and I'm stealing my thunder, but I can do hard copies. I used to do a printed typed version.
Right.
I found that was redundant and a little time consuming,
That's why we
so,
spend
Can
money on these
you-
things.
yeah. But if you want, I can print a hard copy of the presentation.
Or put it in our,
Or just put it in, yeah, I'll put it in I have been updating it in the board folder, but what I could do after every meeting is just send you a direct link to that, so you have it as well.
Sure.
Is that okay? All right.
Yeah, it's easier for me if I know where it is in the directory.
Okay, yeah.
Then I'm not chasing your emails.
Yeah.
When did you send that?
I'll just make sure that it gets uploaded in there.
Yeah.
that'd be,
If anybody wants the typed version, that was sort of a legacy thing, like I feel like I'm doing it in person and that's a better format, but.
I still have about 6 months worth for starting fires. So,
Yeah,
I'll let you know what.
okay, if you really want it, I'll bring it back, but for now, I feel like I'm getting the information
Let's
across.
save the tree.
I
Okay,
really, yeah, I'm so tired of people.
all right. Do you have a question, Dale?
Yeah, do you know how many members are in the Northwest River Partners?
Quite a few.
It's a lot. I mean, it's probably 50-ish, somewhere in there. And it's not just utilities. Utilities is the biggest membership, but it's also irrigators, weed growers.
Some
There's,
customers that want to build.
their whole thing is anybody that's using the Columbia River system, they wanna support them. So they're trying to really advocate for all the things that the river does for us. Hydropower being the number one for us, of course. I can get you the exact numbers. Okay. So on that note, River Partners, I had my first board meeting, so I was elected to be a board member at River Partners. Really glad to be doing this. I'm gonna have access to some, a lot more information and insight about what's going on the hydropower front. This is kind of the front lines of the battle to win hearts and minds around hydropower, so it's really fun to see it behind the scenes. They did some recent polling. They've been doing annual polling now for about 10 years, so they can track how popular hydropower is versus things like wind and solar and where those lines are trending. Pretty positive stuff. I asked Clark if I could send it to the board. He gave me like tentative permission. They don't want us to release it because they want to do their own big splash with it, but I'll send you the summary version so you can see how our money is having an impact on public opinion when it comes to hydropower, because I think it really is working. I mentioned this, but it's clear the new federal administration presents opportunities when it comes to protecting hydropower, but potential overreach here could send us back into the courtroom. So we gotta be careful with how we process this. I will say that the co-ops, maybe not surprisingly, are kind of going their own way on this, and they're really being aggressive about just coming in and getting that agreement taken down completely. That's gonna put us back in the courtroom. So we gotta balance that, and we're trying to work with them to make sure that that can happen. And lastly, Clark did offer to come into a future EPUD board meeting to talk to the board about what's going on with River Partners. So, yeah, we did that with Kurt, so we'll try to do it with him. We can do a workshop later in the year, hopefully.
That'd be
with
great.
Clark, yeah, they're doing really good work. This is just an example of the kind of stuff that River Partners is doing for us as well. They were big, they put out a press release when it came to that environmental impact statement. They attacked it, said it's redundant, unlawful, misleading. There's a lot of good words in there.
Yeah.
Jeopardizing service to millions. They didn't hold back. So this is the kind of stuff that we gotta be getting in front of lawmakers. We've got to be getting in front of the public that, you know, we're not just gonna move forward without another point of view in the public sphere. They also worked with this whole group to kind of push this idea of a cost cap. So in that agreement, we said we're gonna spend $300 million over the next 10 years on fish mitigation. There's talk already about that being a floor and not a ceiling, and so they're really trying to work at the federal level to put that into law so that it doesn't go any higher than that. And then lastly, they're working through this group that is studying how we might run the system without the dams. That's a real tough effort, and they've highlighted several things on here. One is just the lack of representation on the committee. So there's a big committee that's supposed to be helping guide the study through the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. It's going to look and say, how can we run the system with and without the dams? And because we pay for the system and it impacts our customers, we're arguing, well, we should at least get half of the seats on that committee. Instead, they gave us 3 consumer-owned utilities out of 20 and 5 total utilities. There's some IOUs in there as well. So they're arguing that we need equal representation. I don't know if that'll get anywhere, but that's the kind of stuff that they're pointing out. They're also trying to move the scope toward what are the hydro impacts and not kind of prejudge what the study should come up with, and explicitly address affordability and reliability. So they're really pointing out, I think, the right things when it comes to what's going on with this prep study that we're all paying attention to. So River Partners, I think we're getting our money's worth. Next topic, LED lighting. How many people knew we have not rolled out LEDs to our customers yet? You probably did. We're just gonna start it.
What?
This year, we're gonna start the conversion to LEDs for EPUD-owned lights.
Maybe we should get some fresh streetlights in our urban areas.
We're gonna start with yard lights. So
Oh.
this is a soft rollout to kind of validate the performance and make sure that the process is in place. But we're gonna probably have a larger effort in 26 to kind of hit areas all at once, including potentially a city like Veneta.
So he's gonna be night light or pollution sensitive.
That's part of why we're doing it slow.
I'm a big believer. in
Yeah,
that.
that's partly why we're trying to try it out first and make sure it's not gonna
That's will
be
thank us.
annoying. Yeah. We did learn through our own experience here on the building that there are tools you can use to help compensate for that.
So are these like, whatever that is, there's a
Dark sky compliant.
dark sky
Yeah.
compliant. Okay, thank
You know,
you.
one of the best cities in the country for that's Tucson, Arizona, because of the Kitt Peak Observatory.
Yeah,
At night, you see the light on the streets, but you don't see it blasting
Right.
into the sky like it
Yeah.
is. And it's not just street lights, they do it with all their
Yeah.
outdoor lighting. It's a
Yeah.
pretty cool thing.
yeah, there's been enough of this now out there that, you know, there's pretty well tested solutions. So we'll make sure it's not,
Plus, why waste energy point in the sky? It
Exactly.
doesn't do any good. We'd
Yeah.
rather use it to go down.
you're just annoying people.
And I guarantee you that people will be annoyed because it's different.
Oh, yeah.
Need more noise.
Yeah.
To answer your
I
question,
like
Brian,
the
You know, you have
old
one in
lights.
Timbuktu.
Be annoyed.
And Ryan, to answer your question about dark sky compliant,
Yeah.
all of these can be retrofitted, these first initial ones with a quick little cowlight.
Just a
you
hood.
Put up there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the biggest, you know, people are used to that spread out light. So when you start bringing somebody, same situation where you get less light that's spread out over a barnyard, you're gonna get a little blowback.
Just tell them the
I
right
believe most,
administration required it.
yeah, but most of them are quick and
Thank
easy,
you.
fix this if we need to. And then also, I think our streetlights, when we go in subdivision, will definitely be dark sky.
So what are the numbers in a soft rollout? How many?
Well, we did our first 4, so right now we have 4 out there.
I think we're slipping the clutch there.
It's like, casual. Yeah,
Like, wanna make sure they work, right?
these are just near the building, so they're around CD Loop and other areas. We plan to place an order for maybe.
Softer?
We could just do one, no. We're planning to do probably about 50 for the first order, somewhere in that is what I've heard.
How many do we have kind of like roughly of those kind of accounts? Is it a
How many do you think we have?
How many streetlight counts do we have? Thousands? or-
Kelly knows.
So there's a difference between yard lights, right, which is what you have on your property, and our municipalities and all the streets, right?
Yeah, they're.
So right now, our focus is really just on the yard lights,
I see.
because that we can do ideally through this initial kind of rollout will be as they need replaced. So you call in, you say, my light's out,
Got it.
we're gonna come replace it with a new light.
These are like low flush toilets, right? Same.
So right now, we have the opportunity to look at the lumen output. Same unit that unit can go up to 9,000 lumens. And so if I went and bought every one of them at the highest rate, and we get back, holy cow. So we're going with a 6,000 lumen right now to start off with, and seeing if that's gonna work. What we don't want is get this thing off my property, I can't see my eyeballs anymore.
Color rendition vary. on-
Yeah, so like a
depending on the
application
application
of
too.
3,000.
That's pretty warm.
Yeah, real warm light, so we're trying to get that whole warm light and just get enough without it being obnoxious.
The 6,000s that split your eyeballs in the middle of the night when you see them in the dark.
Yes, yeah, so we're like 3,000, whatever that.
That's a good number.
is, yeah.
So you mentioned something with the new yard lights, it's gonna be a smaller area that'll.
They look just like this, they're very small domed and opposed to it being
No,
like.
I mean, so like right now they're out.
Get dark night stuff, it can limit the splash.
Like the
Yeah, that's-
direction, how big of a
Right,
surface
yeah,
area.
exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to get the same amount of surface area
Oh,
if we can,
awesome.
if we can.
I have mine turned off.
Now, these are the ones, yeah, like these are the ones that are billed on a monthly basis that we pay the power for, correct?
Yeah,
That's right.
Are streetlights built the same way?
To the.
similar, they're just, but they're not, they don't look like that, they're actually flat, more like we call a cobra head.
But they're the same kind of a billing process where it's a monthly fee to the city and
That's
Yeah.
right.
regardless, and we just pay the usage. Got it. So we benefit from using these, in other words.
Yeah, we'll probably wanna do another rate study here at some point, once we have more of these critical mass rolled out there. But for now, the life is longer, they're a little bit more upfront, so it probably washes out, but we'll wanna look at that long term.
We LEDs, we put them in everything, you know, to have the best indoor lighting you can imagine.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good.
The time has come.
And they last
I've
forever.
changed out a whole bunch of, well, I don't want to say TA, I can't remember.
You sent those to 5HOs that we did a long time ago?
Oh, ages ago, those have been gone. I converted them all to LEDs. I bought crates of tubes, just rewired it.
So when we get to the street light level, I had some experience on a brand new subdivision, getting to replace all of the street light fixtures that were designed by a lighting engineer, where
Yeah.
they do a pattern on it. You have to be really careful, there was too much light.
Yeah.
And then you can't, these were flat with a whole bunch of little tiny bulbs.
That's right.
Yeah,
We had to replace them all,
So you
it
can replace
was
those things.
30 grams. And I
No
had
kidding.
you can get them directional, or also you get them shielded.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but for yard lights, you shield them or something, but when you get to the street lights, we have to be pretty careful.
You gotta-
So that's kind of a soft rollout, so we got 4 or 5 that we bought, we got 4 out there, we have some before measures of 100 watt high sodium look, and then we're gonna.
Yes, they're outside fixtures and stuff, yeah.
Okay,
so this is mainly just FYI, we're starting the process, you may hear about it, it'll be a soft rollout, the big push will be next year most likely.
We need to advertise that a little bit when we start putting in, show it a
Well,
little bit.
I think we wanna be a little on the down low right now, just cause if you hear, if somebody hears about this, they're gonna want one potentially,
Me
and
too.
yeah, so. Once we get to that point though, we'll do. a
If we
big
wanna
push.
see, make sure there's no glitches and everything. For
Yeah. Yeah,
So we're gonna probably, towards the middle of the year, we're gonna buy some of these, the streetlights. And do some, put some somewhere, streetlights inconspicuous, because what I wanna do is I wanna go en masse. You walk into a subdivision, you don't want that weird one in the middle, you want everything just to look the same. And so finding out which one that works the best.
Most of the current lights sodium or how?
Yeah, high pressure sodium.
There's mercury vapors
There's there, so.
There still is, so we got some toxic waste removal stuff to do too.
There's nothing to see there.
Mercury vapors not?
Why not?
I think all of them have to, there's disposal fees associated with all of them.
Yeah.
When you do my neighbor's yard light, big hood on it.
Yeah. Boy, that's a weird.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Charles.
Jeff.
You ever hear of a BB gun?
Yeah, I just wonder, are we gonna do this in-house?
Yes,
You're gonna do retros on in-house on all of our yard lights?
yes.
Initially, this
That'll
is
be 20 years.
Yeah, initially this is gonna be as things need to be replaced, but next year we may need to talk resources if we wanna do a big push and you can do it.
It's gonna be.
It's great winter work. It's great winter work for crews if I need to do.
Well, I'm sure they love it.
I'll split them up.
That's something we need to.
Very
much.
Pretty excited about it.
I bet they are.
They're ready.
They've been asking for it for a while.
Damn, all day long.
Yeah. Okay, 2024 audit timeline, real quick update. We signed our engagement letter with Moss Adams for the 2024 audit. Their staff were out last week actually performing initial field work for that. We will have them in the board meeting on February 18th to do the kickoff. Their actual audit field work will take place on March 3rd, the week of March 3rd. And then we plan to come in the board on April 15th to have the final audit in place. We were a little delayed last year because of the storm. We didn't get done until June, so we're trying to get back to the timeline that's more April to have that time.
I've learned one thing here in 8 years, there's two basic seasons, budget season and audit
Thanks.
season.
Yeah.
And every time you get around, one of them is right in front of you.
Nothing in between.
I
It's
know,
like painting a bridge, so.
it really is.
Let's see, just real quick, if you're wondering my travel schedule, so I'm gonna have a busy year. I'm gonna try to attend PPC and Opuda in person as much as possible. We've got Bonneville contracts this year, so it's gonna be important to be up at those meetings. I also have now River Partners that'll be right after PPC, so I'll be up there pretty much every Thursday in Portland on the first of the month. I've got NIA meetings quarterly. Those are between Portland, Seattle, Boise, and Montana. I can do some of them remote, but that's another obligation. We mentioned this, Charles did the NWPA has a wildfire conference and power supply conference back to back. That's up in Portland, I think at the embassy. So we'll be up there. Rob and I will be presenting on the 29th power supply conference. DC trips keep coming up. I keep trying to duck these, but they keep coming up. So Kurt Miller reached out last week and wondered if I could go with them April 27th through the 1st of May. I have Clark asking me about potential trips later in the year, so I know I've done this a couple times, just wondering. How's the board feeling about DC trips? My feeling is maybe once a year is helpful, but I don't wanna overstep on that assumption, so.
Yeah, I think they're important, there's no question, but you have APPA, you have NWPPA. There is one other national group that has it.
Well, PPC does a trip, River Partners does trips, so you could go every quarter if you wanted
Usually
to.
with PPC, there'll be like 4 or 5 people that go
Yeah.
and, you know, I mean,
I haven't done NWPPA, I've done PPC and River Partners, but I haven't done NWPPA, so. Kurt said he thought it would be helpful, I said I'd talk to you all. I'm happy to do it.
I suggested that he
Okay,
told me to get you.
thank you.
My guess, you're being asked for a good reason.
Yeah, I just, I wouldn't discourage.
Okay, well,
I guess, in my opinion, I think you're just an excellent voice.
All my caution is if you feel like you're getting too run down, say no.
well, I'm happy to do it, I just,
Your personal life's impacted by this travel and stuff, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It takes a toll after a while.
it's true, but I think that I found that they're pretty worthwhile, you do get to talk to typically legislators and when there's not they're happy to see you when you make that journey. It's different when you talk to them here at their office.
it is.
So
It
if you go
really
back
is.
there, usually they're paying attention.
You have a pretty good talent for articulating what's going on in the big picture, and I think that's a valuable thing to keep in front of them. So
I
I'd
do
say
too.
keep going if
Alright.
you're up to it.
They do
I'll
too.
try to limit it to once this year. I think that's plenty for our ratepayers to have to fund. But they do need some voices, so.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give it a shot there then for NWPA.
Now more than ever.
It is, this is gonna be a big year for them, so.
Plus, there's gonna be a different mood in Washington this year, so.
True.
It's interesting for you to get a sense of
It's
what
true.
the differences are.
I'll be taking some personal travel the week of March 17th, heading back to Louisiana for a wedding, and then August 4th through the 21st, I'm gonna take 3 weeks off, so.
Yeah, ooh. So
Leave
Yeah.
yourself.
Baton Rouge they have the wildest St. Patrick's Day parades down
Oh.
there I've ever seen.
We're gonna just miss Mardi Gras too, so.
Yeah, but St. Patrick's Day.
Gee, that's rough.
I'm sure that'd be your personal health.
Get this, watch it, winos puke on the street, and
Oh,
let
All right, we talked about this, the GM report. I will, I'll upload these to your board folder every month, so you have those.
Yeah.
And, That's it, other than the next board meeting is gonna be a workshop on February 4th. We'll, we penciled in the advisors for the bond issuance, so we'll see how much we still have to cover. They'll be available. It may be a shorter discussion since we covered quite a bit tonight. We'll talk more about the Short Mountain RFP. We'll see if we're at the point where we have a staff recommendation. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to rush that process. That was our original timeline, was to come in with some kind of recommendation. We're gonna have some back and forth with the proposers here. So if that timeline works, great. If not, we'll give you at least an update on where things stand. I'm still trying to provide you as much detail as I can, via email and other channels too. So you'll be kept up to date. And then we have our customer service policy due for review in that workshop as well. That's the next one. We have one more staff report. That's our communications review. So Alicia is going to run you through that, see what we're talking to customers about, and she's going to also preview what's to come here in the first quarter of 25.
Just a quick comment, ties the ice storm into maybe what you're talking about is, I got my EPUD bill today.
Oh, God.
And, you know, it shows the green chart from
Yeah,
last year, this year.
What
Look out next month.
Bar's a lot higher than it was last year.
Well, no, well, this next bill, I don't know.
Turn
Your
your
bills
power.
get
Yeah,
set
the bill
off.
cycles, it spills into the next month, so you're probably getting some.
So
You'll see it next
yeah,
month.
mine stops, so my whole impact will be next month, so those charts will be. You're gonna get
Actually had
calls
no
like,
use last
why am I
year.
doing
Yeah.
3 times this year what I did
Well,
last? Well, you didn't have any power.
We can shut your power off.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
It's gonna make-
Yeah, that was, a lot of people went 2 weeks without using anything.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. All right, do you want to take over here?
Sure. Okay, so I'll make this fast too. We just want to take a chance to recap what we communicated in the fourth quarter. So specific to power lines, I've just kind of done a quick high level description here for each of the topics that we covered for October, November, and December. So in October, we focused on outage preparedness. We even talked about how to report outages on Smart Hub. Anytime we can promote Smart Hub and encourage people to be using it, we're trying to. So in this case, we tied it into our outage preparedness communication. We then talked about generator safety and then the GeneraLink transfer switch. Again, all ties into how can you be prepared, what can you be doing. One consistent thing that we're communicating in every single issue of power lines is the tree crew locations. So that's just a set spot now in power lines. So you're going to see that every single month. And then we did start communicating what our holiday hours were going to be. So we wanted to make sure people were aware that we were going to be closed certain times or what our availability would be. We also did an announcement about the public hearing for the 2024 budget. We wanted to get communication going, letting people know here's what's happening and here's how you can stay informed. Here's how you can be involved. So getting that information out there as well. And then energy assistance season gets going around this time. So a lot of information about what programs are opening and contact information, resource information. So you're going to see that throughout several months as well. November, we focused on, I just realized this is 2024 budget, not 2025, but the November, in October, yeah. Still not used to typing in the new year yet. November, we talked about the 2025 budget proposal. We again went into LIHEAP specific program information. Kelly, I can't remember, is it still November 1st for the?
They actually changed it this year, so it traditionally was the first business day in October, they moved to this year.
Okay. So it's in November that it starts, yeah. So we want to make sure that people are aware of that. So if they need energy assistance, they can, they know where to go and how to get that going for themselves.
Application in.
Yep, exactly. Weatherization, we talked about common heating mistakes on this one. We did some heat pump water heater promos, again with tree locations, more communication on holiday hours. Gave some information on the parade schedule, because we had the light parades coming up in December. And then we just did some general information on low income program info. So this is like information where we highlight
all the different agencies in each of your districts and contact information. So if they, because some of these organizations have more than just LIHEAP, they have other resources and, yep, exactly. Sometimes it's even like a food bank that, you know, that I think it's Jefferson City Local Aid has. So we're just constantly trying to put that, yeah, just constantly have that information in front of them that, here's resources for you. December, we did an article.
Look at that.
Look at that, yep, we did, saluting an EPUD
That made
pioneer,
it
Ron
into,
Davis.
NWPPA did a big, article.
Yeah. And then we talked about, the rate increase, that we're reminding people that that was gonna be going into effect. We, announced that Empowering Scholarship Program was opening up, and I don't know if you remember, we talked about this before, we are opening it up sooner than we historically did, so we got that program opened up, I believe
It's
it's
really good that there was something about, this could be a job in the utility industry, and you had all
Yeah.
that stuff, I thought that was great.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to help people realize there's a lot of different jobs in the
Yeah.
utility industry,
Yeah.
and
So
so.
that was great.
Yeah, that's one that we kind of try and get that message out there as much as we can. I believe that program ends or excuse me, the application process, I think ends at the end of this month here in January. We did a bit about online security tips specific to having stronger passwords. You know, we see all kinds of scammers all the time. We keep hearing about that. So just another reminder, here's what you can be doing to help increase your security. Tree crew locations, again, light heat program reminders, low income program information. So again, that theme that you're gonna see, we want to just make sure that information is out there.
You know, if somebody breaks into my account and pays my bill.
Let them.
We actually
Can we
had,
call that
Hate to
scam
say
or
it
do we?
twice.
Yeah.
we had a couple situations of compromised accounts that kind of brought that on. We wanted to just remind everybody, nobody's information was compromised.
What kind of mischief could they get up to though?
Well, what happens is our Smart Hub allows you kind of access to a payment gateway. So if you're a bad guy with a whole list of credit cards that you want to try and make payments on, that gateway gives you the ability to run the cards for those really small dollar amounts to see what
See if
cards
they
will
work.
hit. So yeah, it's not that your information is gonna get compromised. If somebody gets into it, it's a gateway for them to do other fraudulent things that we're trying to avoid.
People have too much time.
Yeah,
Agreed.
keep your
I
smart
just,
enough
the
passwords
bank needs
strong.
to inform me that there was some unauthorized device looking at stuff, so I had to change all that. But they caught it right away. There's like only been like 2 little.
Yeah.
I said, it wasn't me.
And
Smart Hub
then the,
required to pass authentication, or is that
So-
optional?
it's optional. We currently, our tool does not require it, although it is on the roadmap for them to start to allow utilities to
Biggest thing
require it.
everybody should be doing,
Mhm.
absolutely mandatory.
Notice other utilities are doing that.
Yeah, so we can't require it, but one of the things that we're working on, couple, Rob, who's not here, and I and my team are working on is rolling out some new features for 2025. So directing people to that on Smart Hub, although we can't require you to do it, we can say if you want to.
Really good idea.
Yeah, so we're working on some of those enhancements to push it. Yeah. And just to provide some clarity on the information that we did on the online security tips and stronger passwords, our tips were make them long, make them random, make them unique. So it wasn't specific to Smart Hub or anything like that, but rather just in general, when you're creating passwords for all the different programs that you have, these are things that can help. And so.
Password.
Use a password manager, yeah.
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 That's the number one.
They make ones that are so ridiculous, no, you couldn't remember them if you had to.
Yeah. So, those are the articles that we covered in Power Lines. Let's switch over to social media. And these are the social media posts we did, not including outage updates, right? Outage updates are out there, on our social media, depending on what's going on with weather and car hit poles and all of that. These are things that we did in between any outages that we may have had. Big push that we did was October, we did everything about our Public Power Week and coffee giveaways. So this is where we had at least one coffee place each day of the week and every single district. So Monday of Public Power Week, we were in Bonita with Cup of Joe. On Monday, we also did Espresso 58 in Pleasant Hill. On Tuesday, we were out at Cresswell with Blue Valley Bistro. Wednesday, we were over at Junction City. We tried a new coffee place this time, Bounds.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, I think we did the Max Borders, is that in Junction City, something like that, if I remember right, yeah. Yeah, so this year we tried a different one, Bounds, and then Cottage Grove on Thursday, we did Gold Rush Espresso, and then on Friday, we did the Marcola Community Market. So we tried to hit all the districts, going back to something that we were talking about earlier with the feedback that we keep hearing about with the ice storm. You go back and you look at those posts, and even on there, we're saying, hey, come have a free cup of coffee, and we still are seeing comments in there about, you guys were so great during the storm, you're so keeping us so informed, and we even had some people who posted a lot during the storm continue to post
Wow.
little graphics, like they love to refer to us as Power Rangers. So we see literally the Power Rangers all the time in our posts now too. So it's created some or an increase in our engagement with our customers too. So that was great. Also for October, we did a public hearing announcement for the 2025 budget. Hey, I got the number right. We did a 2025 budget process and proposal. We announced about the federal grant to increase resilience of the local grid. So that's the one where we've got that between the Lane County Government, EPUD Sub, and the Center for Rural Livelihoods, that $500,000 grant. So we did an announcement about that. We did Happy Weatherization Day and just kind of promoting weatherization in general. And then we pointed people to a blog from Comfort Ready Home too, on that one as well. Let's see. In November, we did, we had a joint use specialist job posting. We had high wind warning, so we knew some weather was coming our way, so we wanted to get people informed about what was gonna happen. Which I believe we then had lots of outages. So we started promoting Kyle's manager message. So that's something that right now, I think it's just a 3-part series, is that right? Or is it more than 3 parts?
2 right now,
But
but
there's a 3rd part.
it's
coming, right?
envisioned as a 5-part series.
Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere.
We'll see
in
where it
here.
goes.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember how many parts. Multiple parts to the manager's
So
message.
where's all the revenue? from
The
Kyle's?
royalties, I'm still waiting for them.
Yeah.
You get so many.
What
Yeah.
does YouTube start paying?
Considering there's like dozens of reasons, I don't know how big that royalties really are.
Kyle, as they always say, don't quit your day job.
So yes, the first part of that manager's message, we started promoting that. We did a happy Thanksgiving post with another little reminder about our availability. December, we had K&D interview. That was with Kyle, Ron, and Dale. So we were able to share the link to that so people could hear in. Lots of topics covered on
Yeah.
that particular one. We also then did some more education on emergency preparedness. Part 2, manager's message, that coming back with in high demand there, so we had to get that one going right away. We did a posting for the accounting technician job, which just closed last week, so we're working on that as well. And then we had shared Kyle's presentation to the Senate Interim Committee, so we want to put that out there as well. We did a quick little highlight about UPED's community support, so just a little update about all the different ways that we try to support our communities. So we highlighted, where was it? That we install flagpoles, we hang banners, we raise arches, we decorate holiday trees, things like that. So just to promote that we're out there trying to be good neighbors, good community members.
You donate to the different.
Yeah, which nice lead into this next one. Donation, sponsorships, and events. Yeah, so Q4, Brian, I promised you we would have more in your district this quarter, and here it is. Yeah. So,
Free stuff.
so we did do a sponsorship for the Bonita Tour of Lights of $500. We had multiple events in December, the Public Power Week across every district with the coffees that I mentioned earlier. We had the Bonita Holiday Light Parade on December 12th, the Bonita Tree Lighting same day, and then the Bonita Tour of Lights, which I think runs for a chunk of time. I don't know the exact dates, yeah. Then we did Crestwell Holiday Light Parade on 12/15, Pleasant Hill High School Career Fair on October 30th, and then the Crestwell Holiday Light Parade on December 14th. We did Junction City Holiday Light Parade on December 6th, Harrisburg Holiday Light Parade on December 7th, and Coburg Holiday Light Parade on December 8th. So a lot of different activities that we were doing that time of year. some donations. We did Bonita Chamber holiday events, or press release and posters. So basically what this is, Christine does puts some of the materials together that they need to promote what's going on in Bonita. So it's just basically, donating her
great.
time and, skill.
She's great.
Yeah, she's a pretty special skill set there, so. And then donations, we did an energy efficient basket for the Mohawk Range bingo fundraiser. So, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, I went to the Veneta Light Parade. I was so impressed by how large that event has become. The whole community felt like it was out there.
Thousands of people that we don't have that were there.
Yeah, we were absolutely robbed on the awarding of first place to Lane Electric. I'll never forget that. But next year,
We'll fix it, we'll just turn off half their light.
Yeah.
Nice.
Think about
So
electricity, Vanita.
we didn't have too many pictures from the events this year. The nighttime parade pictures can be a little bit challenging, but we did capture this picture of our Pleasant Hill High School career fair that we did. That's Thomas Robbins, who works out at Short Mountain for us, landfill gas technician, I can't remember, pretty long title. Dylan Price, one of our servicemen, and then Mitch Wagner, power rate analyst, I believe, job title. So, something like that. Okay.
They gotta get us a bigger table next year.
I know, that's what Wendy said on this picture when she sent it, she said smallest table ever. So, but new tablecloth though.
I see the greenhouse in the background, that's a really expensive.
Yeah,
Oh, I bet.
Oh, it's.
that's part of their
it's all-
FFA programs.
It's all computer controlled climate.
Tin things.
Pop up.
Nice.
Way of the eye.
We have one of those for
It
camp.
just looks like a greenhouse,
Yeah.
but it's.
Thanks. Then we have a couple pictures of decorating the truck, so we've got a couple group pictures here. Down over here on this side, we've got Maddie from customer service, Nicole, who's in kind of the operation, in customer service, but it's specific to ops support. Tammy, I wanna call out Tammy, she has been coordinating all these events for us, which takes a lot of effort and you have to be organized and on top of it. Tammy's got it down. She's got it figured out. She's got big plans, I think, for the decorations for next year on the truck too. So Tammy, also I should mention, Tammy just celebrated 25 years with us this month, so pretty
She
big.
started
milestone.
here as a high school intern. I
High
think.
school intern, yes, I think.
Only job, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, pretty
Wow,
Maybe
cool.
people can say
So,
that.
and then you might recognize Wendy there, who helped decorate the
Who's
tree
that?
too.
Hat on.
That's Wendy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Then over here on this side, same group, but over here we got Cole Stoosman. He's one of our new mechanics, joined us earlier this year, May or June, something like that. And then Jim Prey, who's been out in the shop with us for quite some time too. And then his dog,
Sally.
Sally, I almost said
I was
Sadie.
gonna ask what the dog's name was.
So, yeah. And then
Thank
this is
God.
what the final product looks like, right? This is what the parade looks like, or the truck looks like when we're out there in the parade. So side view, you got the little
Looks like
Eve Hud sign out there. You got the front with the snowflakes all lit up and some Santas on the front, so.
Kyle rode in the bucket
You put
this
a
year.
Christmas tree or lights on the bucket.
I was almost decapitated by a low hanging comm line.
I know, that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Had to watch out.
yeah.
Probably one of those communications wires added.
It was, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been, that would have been real soon, Super Bowl version.
We would have backed.
They didn't give you a pair of wire cutters up there.
I should have while I was there.
That must be.
Okay, so those are the pictures of what we had going on for the events. The next thing I'll go over real quick is we just wanted to give you a quick preview of what's to come here for communication in 2025, specific to Q1. We'll be doing a more in-depth version of this each quarter, so next time we do this, we'll recap everything that we communicated in Q1, and then we'll give you a little bit more in-depth preview of what's gonna come up for the next quarter. But for today's purposes, just wanted to let you know, we've already got the January newsletter out. It's in the process of the e-Power Alliance has already gone out, but customers are in the process of receiving the printed newsletter throughout their billing cycle throughout this month. But state of the utilities, I guess the best way I would phrase it, a letter from the general manager. In that, he does talk about reliable power, affordable rates. There's reference to the storm, and I want to mention that because that's something that we just posted on social media, a reminder that we just had a nice storm. I think we did that on Monday, Tuesday.
Yesterday.
What's today? Today's Tuesday, so
Yeah.
yes, Monday. So just kind of reminding customers about the ice storm anniversary. Part 3 coming up, manager's message.
I'll
It's gonna
post it
happen.
tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to hit.
We also highlighted Dale joining the board, so that was another thing that's going out in the January Power Lines. Another reminder about the Empowering Scholarships. We're gonna be doing more communication on emergency preparedness. Following that ice storm, we feel like we have an opportunity where people are listening. So we wanna keep that going. And I believe in Kyle's video that he did on Monday, there's a new page on our webpage that Christine built for us that is just like a massive hub of information about outage preparedness. If you haven't seen it yet, it's really in-depth, really good resource for our customers. So we'll be talking more about that. We're gonna do, or I think we did in the one, maybe it's in January coming up after that. We're talking about car hit pole safety information. We're gonna be talking about helping hands. We're gonna be doing some reminders or promotions about the various programs that we have, such as equal pay, average pay, prepaid billing. That's kind of repeat communication we do every year. Again, we're gonna be focusing on Smart Hub. So as Kelly mentioned, as she's rolling out any new features, we're gonna wanna make sure and highlight that and get people out there using that. Thing that we communicate throughout the year, every year, we do call before you dig, so the 811, we'll do more communication on that this year as well. We'll be doing more promotions on energy service rebates and any kind of promos that they're running, so we'll be highlighting that. In the article or the letter that Kyle wrote in the January Power Lines, and when he's talking about reliable power, he does talk about holding the attachers accountable for making sure that they properly attach, right? So they're not causing damage to us. And then we reference, we're gonna be talking more about this in February Power Lines. So we'll be talking about that in February. And then the other thing I just wanna call out is we're gonna be doing some communication here really soon promoting the customer survey, which we can talk about that more on that agenda item, but there will be some communication in Power Lines and on social media and on our webpage promoting the survey. So.
It's good, busy.
Yeah,
Lots to talk about.
lots going on,
Thank you.
yeah.
Mr. President, can we take a break?
Yep. So, about 5 minutes.
I like coffee. There you go. We're gonna fly through the rest of these items.
8 minutes, you can make sure that it still works.
5 minute break or 8 minute break?
Don't find it. Probably 6.5. You better tell what the line is.
Right. No. Oh,
Not even, oh.
good.
It's all satisfactory there, accomplishments for dinner.
So much.
Yeah.
Out in the parking lot.
Everybody's still on.
Boring.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a little colder.
I think so.
Oh,
Well, and it won't be, it'll be the right amount of cold. Won't be enough to cause a problem. Or it shouldn't have thawed out.
It's getting further one day. It's gonna get serious.
Not to get down to the.
The team is gonna taste. Every day we have prompt one morning and then it's. My God, there's a lot of fish right here. Almost like did. Everything was just white everywhere with that fresh water, and everything, you know, it's really weird looking. Yeah. It's funny how that is. It looks beautiful. It's about an hour. Kind of weird. Yeah, we have. I think it's gonna be. Why didn't? There hasn't been a whole lot.
No.
Nobody did. Right. It's kind of warm actually through the holidays.
Yeah. Well, a lot of rain.
Wow. Yeah. 48 rain's better than 28 fog.
No, that's true.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a lot of those switches in?
A lot of them, yeah.
Was it cost you?
In the courtyard, is that new?
It's been there. It's probably. Maybe it's a little brighter.
Never noticed it.
Is it always like that?
That light, the blinds are open.
That's really-
Oh, we may close those blinds.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah.
Is that an LED?
Oh, yeah.
Keep the peeping toms out.
I can't believe how much brighter they're showing.
Yeah, they shine a lot of light out there.
I just replaced one of mine.
Yeah, the light quality difference is really incredible.
It's cost, it uses less energy.
Oh, way less.
Let's do.
Amazing.
They're supposed to last longer too, although that really depends on the quality of the light.
Right.
And
And
it's
you
headlights.
Yeah, those enclosed LED fixtures don't last long at all. I've noticed.
It'll be a success.
What's that?
People will love the lights.
LED, yeah.
They'll
Oh,
love it.
it's time. Like, there's certain parts of our district where it's us, Lane, Blatchley, and we're the one that doesn't have the LED and it just stands out like a sore
I just
thumb.
don't. You just gotta get up fresh. Do it.
Well, we will, yeah.
Central Lake.
Yeah, not secretly.
I always forget that. Contractor.
Yeah, once we have good feel for how it's gonna roll out, do the building, all that stuff, we'll just we'll make it push. We just gotta make sure we got all the systems in place first. You want one?
I tore mine out, so we can get it out when they reach it down. We ripped it out of there.
I paid for it for how long?
We credited you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we tore it out and then I go, hey, what's this street light? But
We finally
I
realized.
tore that out 4 years ago. I was getting paid.
Who to talk to about it? Any electrician can install it. You just go to the website, it's called Generally.
Yeah, then.
Yeah, yeah. You have a generator.
Yeah.
You already installed the switch.
It's like, I know.
This is a really easy way to do it.
They're good. Yeah. Got a different.
And it's not a bad option to have.
What?
If you buy it, just order it online, it'll ship to you. And like, service is never out. It's really easy, yeah.
They are good.
Take your meter off.
Hook, line, and sinker.
And it says more cheese on
It doesn't take much.
That's right. Because it's their chemical and.
Yeah,
No,
everything takes.
I cannot get a picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's no easy solution.
But it's good.
Talked about putting on the outside wall, but then that means when there's an outage, you'd be standing out in the rain.
Yeah.
With your meter box.
It's not a lot of fun.
In the line, I think that's the only one that's
Doesn't
still.
make much sense.
No.
I think that one would be good.
But now they're probably.
Did you guys hit the 99 grill again?
Never even.
Service is great.
Pleasant to have a nice chat. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's fun.
Glad you guys made the drive. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, just.
Your river council meeting gonna be.
River Partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they put a public link out there. We'll find out.
Well, so you don't.
I don't know if it's a public meeting, but you'd be welcome to join me if you wanted to. See how,
Directors are invited.
there's some proprietary information that they share around things like that. How we're gonna strategize on legislation. But I'd be happy to bring them. I think there is a hybrid option. I just don't know if I can share it. It's like one day. Yeah, if you ever go up to KBC, you could piggyback off of that. It's right afterwards in the afternoon.
He's going to spend the night.
Well, I usually go up Wednesday night, at 8 o'clock Thursday.
I was only 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like noon, and then I stay for.
Let's go.
We're back.
All right, here we go. Short Mountain RFP, so I sent a bunch of information out about this. You all should have the proposals if you want to review them. You can also just look at my notes. A lot of information, a lot of detail that we're wading through here. Rob and Mitch have been carrying a lot of the weight on kind of putting the analysis together for us internally. We are also in parallel having our consultant put their own analysis together and as a cross check.
That's the Echo people.
Eco engineering,
Okay.
yeah, eco engineers. They will join us at that meeting in the February workshop, I think is February 4th. They'll be available to help answer questions. You know, interesting, the range of proposals that we got is you kind of look through them, you can see who was really interested maybe and who was hoping that, you know, they could throw out a low number and see if we would bite. The good news is we do have, I think, a couple players here that are gonna be reasonably competitive. One maybe more so, but we still have to vet a number of different things here. So the process is what I want to focus on tonight. And because it's kind of a competitive situation, I won't talk about most of the detail on the proposals themselves. But if you have questions, feel free offline to just, you know, ask me. I'm happy to share anything that we can. So the proposals were due on the 8th of January. We got 5 back. We're currently processing them. We had planned to do interviews this week. We put that off and we said, you know, we'll plan on that the week of the 20th, so next week. There's one bidder that has to do it the week after that. So the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing some back and forth with the different proposers. We'll clarify things, you know, what the cost assumptions were on both sides of this, and then ultimately work through some counter proposals. And our goal is to bring a recommendation to the board after that's played out. Now, I want you to be part of that and understand how it develops, so I'll continue to share information as we move toward what we feel like is the highest and best offer for our position out there. If you have concerns about anything along the way, please reach out to me, but our goal would be to bring in, here is our proposal, our recommendation from staff on how to move forward with this thing sometime in February. The intent to award was penciled in February 11th. That's flexible. We can move that out. I imagine we probably will, given how much there is to work through here and how much we'll have to be doing back and forth on counter proposals and see what we can get to. But
We only have that one meeting on the 4th and before that, so.
we have, yeah, so we have, yes, next would be the 4th. We have 2 meetings in February, so likely what we'll do is preview where we're at on the 4th, and then February 18th, I think, is our second meeting that month. Hopefully we'll have something firmer there that we can bring to the board. The intent to award is, it sounds very official. It's sort of just the next step in this process, though. It doesn't necessarily commit us to anything more than going into continued negotiations
I was
with
just
whoever
gonna
the
say,
party is.
we like you the best.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you.
Each one of these offers is very high level also, so, you know, when push comes to shove, we gotta get this into a contract. We gotta get the language to our liking. It's gonna be a process to go through that.
There's not really a standard contract. that
Right.
We could just say like, here you go.
We need to have some discussions with the county,
Yes,
so we know exactly how this will be configured.
But let's make sure that until we decide that none of us are talking to anybody we know, like down at the county or anything, let's kind of like, let's play it close to our
That's-
chest.
I
yeah,
don't know anybody doing it.
Okay.
Well, they don't like me.
No, whoever
They
we're
know
chit
church,
chatting.
you see him coming down the hall, they hide.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think there will be some decision points for the board. I do think we have options here that I'm more optimistic about than I was at the very beginning of when we saw the proposals back. I think we've got some things we can work with here, so. My goal is to bring back what we consider to be our recommendation. Hopefully, we'll give you a good update on the 4th and then see if we can do something more formally on the 18th of February at that point.
Yeah, what point will we consider going into private meeting or to executive session on this?
I think
On February 4th or beyond that, probably.
I'll talk to Chad.
Depends on how specific we need.
It has to be related to contract negotiation. I tried to push him on that to see what.
Can we evaluate one proposal over another privately? I mean, without doing it publicly, because
That's where you get tricky. It's gotta be to consult with counsel about a specific contract. And I told him, well, this is competitive. We want to share this. It's like, well, technically anybody could request this information and we have to provide it to them because it's an ongoing public process.
so it seems odd, how could the board evaluate proposals without giving away what we're thinking about?
Yeah, it's tricky.
That's tricky.
I don't wanna be deceitful, but I don't.
That's where he's like,
Proper job otherwise.
the normal way this would work is staff would get it down to a recommendation. We would bring that to the board. And at that point, we could deliberate, I think, about the specifics of that recommendation.
In executive session.
In executive session. I think that's
But not from one to the other.
we couldn't necessarily do that when we're considering a process that to this point is a public process. So I'll continue to work with him. My hope was to do this tonight in executive session, but we're trying to not get the headlines like the county did.
Well, it's better we get
Let's
this
not,
right.
let's not do what the county did
Yeah.
with VHS.
Well, it's better we get this right than get it done fast.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. We've got some good stuff to work with. We've got a couple proposers that are really serious and I think could help us move forward. So we'll process it as much as we can. Staff, I'll do as much as I can to communicate what's going on when.
Okay.
And as soon as we can talk more in executive session, we'll do that.
Understood.
So. I sent this out too, but I just went through all this. The evaluation that we're going to use, I think this is totally fair to share. We're gonna evaluate against the status quo, which is operating the plant through 2028, followed by replacement power, which we've talked about what that looks like. The full analysis is gonna look at gross facility costs, so what it's gonna cost to operate, what the royalty payment's gonna be, and what our replacement cost of electricity is. We're gonna weigh that against benefits, which include avoided cost of power, rec value, avoided electricity production costs, landfill gas rights purchase payment, which is kind of a down payment, and then the ongoing RNG royalty value. And we're looking at all of these different things, trying to get it apples to apples so that you have a good picture of what's where. And I sent a summary of that to you.
Appreciate
Yeah, so there's still a lot more to come. As we get these questions out, our goal by the end of the week is to get questions to the proposers. I'll send those to the board as well, so you can see what we're asking and what we're trying to clarify. And as we get responses into, I'll make sure that you have a good sense of what those look like. Anything else I missed? Okay. We'll keep processing here. This is a big one, big decision, obviously, and you know, I think good news is we've got some options here, so that's the big headline. All right. Customer survey, Lisa's coming back up.
So you mean Kyle is in the notes section of that slide.
You wanna go through that?
Yeah, well, we can go to or have it available. I got it
So-
printed just too, in case we need to.
We sent the survey outline along with the questions to you. There's a couple of changes that we just wanted to highlight real quick.
Yeah, we added a few statements in there was a section on here that covers their opinion if it didn't work. If not, I have printed copies. I came with backup plan.
I'm not gonna bring that up right
Okay, well, here, let's,
now. And those are-
yeah, if you just wanna go around, there should be one for each board member. The backup plan, we just talked about how we hate paper. Well, I'm gonna give you some paper. There was a section, in the draft that we sent you about the perception of EPUD, and it was basically just statements about things like, I am confident that EPUD's power reliability will meet my needs over the next 5 years, and then you say, you know, I strongly disagree, or I strongly agree with this. Those types of questions are a good data point for us and getting some information about how customers are feeling and stuff. So after today, after talking with Pioneer and Pulse, we decided there would be a benefit to adding a few more of those into this survey. So I highlighted those on this document for you so you could see that we do have a few more help really drill down to this particular topic. We've got, is EPUD doing a good job on, or EPUD is doing a good job of communication regarding reliability, improvements, investments, and they're providing their opportunities to provide you feedback. We got obviously to fine tune the language. We were typing this as we went with, our Pioneer was typing this up as we went, but we're gonna fine tune the language, but you can see the topic that we're trying to, or the statement that we're trying to get to. We want to gauge, do people think that we're doing a good job communicating about what we're doing, and have they seen any kind of do they feel like they have opportunities to provide feedback? Then we also talk about, I'm aware of the investments EPUD has been making in its infrastructure. I'm aware of the improvements EPUD service reliability over time. So again, just gauging what their awareness is. The other change is that we moved this section up higher in the draft than what we had previously planned on doing. The rest of the questions and everything are the same that we put in the packet, but what we're looking for is, we're still gonna be, like I mentioned, fine tuning the language, right? There's little tweaks here and there to make sure it sounds right, it runs smooth. But we're hoping to just get a nod to keep moving forward, go forward with these questions, with this intent of what information we're trying to gather. And then timeline wise, we're looking at starting it at the end of this month and running it for approximately a month. I think it's supposed to start end sometime in February 20th, something like that. We're not gonna close it. What we're gonna do though is we're gonna keep it open, but we'll start pulling data and see what it looks like. One of the reasons we're not gonna close the survey in February is we're talking about it in the February power lines, and some people might not have even received the power lines issue yet. So we want everybody to have a chance to provide information, but our goal is to get you results by the end of Q1. So we're gonna do an initial poll of the data around February 20th and see what it's looking like, and then we'll pull again after.
So how are people gonna fill this out? Is it online or
Yep.
gonna just, okay.
Yep, so just like we did last time, it's an
Right, that's
online
what I would-
survey.
Survey Monkey. kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
that you might remember in years past, we used to call.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah, this is all online. Yep, so QR codes, links, that kind of stuff to get people there. This survey is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. In the past, we say, hey, we wanna hear, get your feedback on communication preferences, click this link. This one's a little bit different. We wanna make sure, in order to get good content, good information in this survey, we wanna make sure that we provide a little bit of background, a little bit of education first about what we're even talking about. And highlight what we've been doing. So this communication, when we start pushing out, hey, we've got this survey going on, there's gonna be some communication that goes along with it. We're envisioning that we'll have some videos from Kyle, or video, I should say, from Kyle, that we'll be able to share some article information on the webpage, then with the link to the survey. We're estimating the survey to take no more than 15 minutes, probably shoot for more of like a 10-minute survey. We don't want it to be too difficult, but we do want to make sure it's, we get good information from it.
Did you, maybe I missed it, but did you mention kind of response we're hoping to get in terms of numbers?
Yes, we mentioned that. I don't remember if they referenced a specific percentage. It was in our last cover page. They did say it will be lower than what the previous one was, just because the type of survey that we're doing this time, and that we have more open-ended questions. It's a totally different type of topic than, do you like Facebook? Do you like, using the paper newsletter, that kind of stuff? This one's different. It is a lower percentage. I don't remember off the top of my head though. Do you remember?
I know last time we got about 1,200, I think.
Yeah.
And it'll be, we'll see, I wouldn't sell ourselves short.
I think
Well,
this is
they estimated it'll be lower than that.
I think this is a worthwhile.
We didn't have a video for me last time, so we'll see.
Well, I think this is a worthwhile.
Fill it out. Well, it's a $500 gift card.
Yeah.
If, not everybody, but it's
If you win the
a lottery.
I think it's a worthwhile goal to do this, but I gotta tell you, if you buy a bar of soap online, they wanna know a survey. I'm getting righteous. I will not answer any
Yeah.
surveys. At all.
Yeah,
I absolutely will not. I'm sick of it.
that's fair. I think
You
we're gonna
get
have
4 or
to.
5 people a day want you to answer
Yeah.
surveys about something. I'm just sick
I'll
of
do
it.
surveys if I'm tipped off at somebody.
Well, that may, that may be.
Boy, you must be a lot of fun, huh?
Now, Emerald has a little better,
Yeah,
panache than some, so that
we'll
probably.
try to play off of that.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't do it, I mean, just speaking personally, I'm getting real averse to
fair.
surveys. Everybody wants to track what
Absolutely,
you're doing.
We'll
Are
try
you
to.
very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, partly satisfied, or horribly satisfied,
Yeah,
We can flash this up.
yeah.
Yeah, I think some of those survey companies, then they can, if you respond to them, they'll sell the responders
yeah.
to another survey company.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to build on the trust that we built through the ice storm and really say like, hey, look, we wanna hear what you have to say. Is it okay to go through one of these events like that every so often?
Yeah.
And really build off of what it's fresh in mind, so hopefully.
That's what
Probably
we do
you'll get
right now.
better results out of people than the average survey.
We'll try, yeah.
We've always had a really good response rate with our survey.
I really hope so.
Yeah, that last one, I know 1,200 doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a great number or percentage to expect. Again, I'll give you the number. They did tell us how much to expect for this next round. It would be lower, but still, it would be significant enough. What they're expecting would be significant enough for them to, indicate what majority of customers would build based on this
Way
number
more in
of
our
customers.
race advisory committees and our
Oh,
budget
yeah.
committee and this group in this room, I mean, that's.
I don't think you're gonna hit a home run every time.
We'll see.
Yeah, and for me, I think part of it is being able to reference the results of this survey in future communication, because to your point, there is frustration about taking surveys. So, and part of that frustration lies with, did you do anything with it? So if we're able to take that information and say, hey, we heard you, here's what we're doing about it, and keep linking back anytime we can that references, we are doing something with this information, I think is good. But the other aspect that I do like, even if we don't get the best information out of it, I like being able to demonstrate that we are trying to create opportunities for you to share feedback, to get involved, and this is one of
Yeah,
those
fair
ways.
enough.
So I do like that aspect
Yeah,
of
we're
it.
trying to balance long-term affordability with long-term reliability.
It's a big
This is
issue.
your chance to tell us what you think. Yes, that's a valuable thing.
And then the question, how much would you pay to keep the power on for fire?
Yeah, well, everything we deal, everybody deals with, there's a bell curve of
Yeah.
how much the money really matters, and pretty soon, no matter how much you spend, it doesn't get any
Yeah,
better.
we maybe hit
And we
that
all
point,
gotta
yeah.
know where that number is, that's the
Yeah.
key, you know, I mean.
Yeah,
Alicia, you mentioned that you're gonna try to get out early what we're asking for here. How Jack, you gonna do that? I mean,
you mean like the pre-survey communication?
Yeah.
It's gonna go with the survey link. So we're gonna get, what we're envisioning is an email, social media post, something on the website that says, hey, here's some information, specific to the survey and what we're doing. It's kicking off, click here to complete it, but we can't force anybody to read
Right.
the pre-communication information or pre-survey information. But hopefully they will, because it'll set them up to understand what we're trying to get out of the
the
survey.
reason I asked, I read infrastructure here, I don't know how many times, and I'll bet you not too many people understand. Infrastructure covers a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
It needs to be, I
Yeah.
think you need to describe what infrastructure
Yeah,
is.
each section will have an intro as
Yeah.
well, and then we'll do like a video, so hopefully it'll be accessible. People say, oh, you know, let me watch that real quick, and okay, I know what they're talking about now, undergrounding lines or rebuilding.
Yeah, some of the people see.
Yeah.
This is what-
Why can't we underground everything so the storms don't
Yeah,
matter?
we'll
Yeah,
get more of that.
exactly.
There's a reason we don't do
We
it.
actually took a question out.
I've heard that from more than.
They were gonna propose that we ask customers, what do you think we should do, undergrounding versus other things, like, no, that's our job, that's
That's
our
our job, yeah.
Yeah, but,
I think if Kyle does one of his
yeah,
little videos and
Yeah.
saying,
Video.
telling the customers, you know, I'm looking at these surveys.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
That-
we wanna hear from you, that's why we're doing this, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that, but still, you know, to take, people are so busy, they don't have
I know,
time.
it's a lot to ask,
The road with fairy dust on
we'll
it.
give it a try.
yeah,
I mean, like a video, they click on the opening and it's click to here to.
Well, I'm gonna say like, please take this down below here, cause this is what we're gonna be using to make big investment decisions over the next 10 years. And what you say will help us, yeah.
No,
Please don't do it.
yeah,
Jimmy won't give you
Yeah.
an opportunity.
That's right.
yeah. Just say your Power Rangers are asking you to do this
Well,
and see.
More, you know, and part of this too is another chance to get a little bit of information out there to people that's
Yeah.
true. There's so much crap
Yeah.
out there about what's going on.
Well, that's a great point, and we're one of the
It's
few
just one more
trusted.
chance to
Yeah.
say that these are the issues we're dealing with, this is why this
Yeah.
matters, because people don't really fully get them.
No, they don't, they don't trust a lot of like these survey outfits, who the heck are these people asking?
Yeah.
They trust us, and I think
Yeah.
that could have a big impact here in how we get a response.
And I feel like we still have their ear right now
Yeah,
because of the storm.
agreed.
Like they were listening, they've been paying attention, there's more engagement on social media this year, and so let's utilize that while we can.
Yeah.
Or keep it going.
We have a good brand.
Okay, well, if you have any specifics on the questions, feel free to throw them over to us, but this will go live in a couple weeks.
Yeah, again, we just have to fine tune some of the language, but the concept here and the questions are we're gonna do what you see here, just with the little tweaks here and there, just to make sure that they sound okay.
Right. I might miss it.
Thank you.
It's just rolling out.
It launches last week of January.
A couple weeks, yeah.
Bring us on home.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
Consent agenda,
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I said.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the claim,
I think that all goes on
That's
one.
all.
it's all, oh, it's all right one. Oh, okay. Order contract approvals.
Yeah, so the first one is 2501 15A. Interesting one, so we have a internal purchasing review team now that's been working for the last 6 months or so, really doing a lot to upgrade our processes. We did the new policy that we brought in a couple months ago. Part of what they're also doing is looking at past activity, and we found one that was passed in or the order was placed in January of 2022, and it was just over the threshold of needing board approval. We don't have a record of it, so we believe what happened is back at the time we were in the habit of ordering inventory on an ongoing, regular basis. This was just after prices had kind of jumped up, and we had never before seen an order of transformers that was over that board approval limit. And this was the first one. January was my first month on the job, and so just didn't happen to get, our process catching it. We do think, just for the good of the order, it would make sense to have the board retroactively approve it. We are talking about this today because we just received the transformers 2 years later. And that's a whole other story that Mark might be able to tell you about, the partner that we have here dealing with this. They literally sent us a couple of transformers that had handwritten notes that said leak and with an arrow. And,
Still leaking.
still leaking. So we're sending those back, but the ones that we're keeping, we do feel like we should clean it up and make sure that we have board approval for it, so. That's what this
idea.
is.
Good idea.
So good and bad here, we should have had this originally, but the team that we've put in place is putting the internal controls around this, so we're finding things, and more importantly, anything moving forward, we've got really, really good controls around. So.
Good. So do you need a motion here?
That's you, Kurt. You have to ask for a motion.
So is there a motion to approve
I move that we
resolution 2025-01?
I move that we approve 2025-01 retroactively approving purchase of those transformers.
I would second that.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next one is, it's an order for the next transformer purchase. So this is from a trusted supplier that we're very happy with, and we'll be delivering, we expect, on time. I think the total order value here is $349,530, so that exceeds my signing authority, and that's why it's coming to the board.
When do we expect that to be delivered? Do we know?
Yeah, second quarter,
Something
Either
like
the
that.
second or the third quarter.
second or third quarter of this, yeah.
So we're down from 2 years down to 2 quarters out.
Well, only one supplier, so I can't tell you how big a difference this one supplier has made in our ability to receive transformers. Ergo, yeah. The one that we've been dealing with that I just mentioned is a nightmare, and took not only 2 years to deliver, but increased our price.
That was the elevator one, wasn't it? They just didn't want to like nail the price down until we.
Yeah, they had all these provisions. We actually canceled the much bigger part of that order, over $1 million worth, that were approved in April of 22. Because they're such a lousy partner, they wouldn't deliver. We canceled the whole thing. It was a big deal with our distributor, but we got it done. But this provider has been a godsend. They produce when we need it, they give us a build slot, and they've hit their targets every single time. So this would be for second or third quarter of this year.
To answer your question, they're about 6 months out from that. Wow, so once you're having a build slot, we're already receiving, and it's kind of
Maybe we'll see a turnaround.
Yeah, we'll go Q2 level, give build slot. We evaluate where we're at. And then we actually dropped about, I believe, 100 transformers from last year. Evaluating less. What's amazing is it's still the same money.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2025-02?
I move that we approve resolution 2025-02, authorizing the order in the future for distribution transformers.
I'll second that.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And the next one is a very unusual ordinance. This is not a resolution, this is an ordinance to authorize the issuance of revenue bonds. As we talked about, that nomenclature is a little awkward, but it is to start the process for our line of credit or drawdown facility. So this is the short-term piece. We will come back separately in February with a formal resolution to adopt the line of credit with terms, conditions, pricing. This is just to get that process started.
There's a motion.
I'll move to approve motion or ordinance number 2025-01, authorizing the issuance of Emerald Peoples Utility District revenue bonds to finance capital improvements.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Can I mention one
Oh,
more
yeah.
thing about the ordinance that we forgot to talk about earlier? So this ordinance is authorizing what's called junior lien obligations. This topic was in the write-up, but just in case you didn't have a chance to get quite that far, I know it was a lot of materials. So what that means is it's subordinate to our other outstanding debt. So it takes kind of second place to our other outstanding debt. That is a benefit to us in some of the calculations we have to do with being able to repay our bonds. The debt service coverage will be calculated twice. So it's just a slightly different than what we'll see coming up with the long-term borrowing. It's also puts us in a better position for that long-term borrowing.
We also put a not to exceed of 10 million here. I mentioned that. That'll
Oh, yeah.
likely be less when we bring in the actual term sheet. We just, it's a lot easier to go down than just go up, so we put it slightly higher.
That'd cover a pretty big score.
That'd be a big story.
Probably not the worst idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That's a big ask of you, and I appreciate you supporting us on that. That'll give us some peace of mind going into this storm season.
Motions.
There was, Director Offenbacher was nominated for the board president, that was unanimously approved. And Director Chappell was nominated for vice president, that was unanimously approved. And Director Parker was nominated for treasurer, that was unanimously approved. The consent agenda, there's a motion to approve the consent agenda, that was unanimously approved. A motion to approve resolution 2025-01 retroactive. Motion to approve resolution 2025-02 authorizing the general manager to make an order for distribution transformers unanimously approved, and a motion to approve ordinance 2025-01 authorizing the issuance of Emerald People's Utility District revenue bonds that finance capital improvements, and that was unanimously approved.
What a night.
Good work. I don't think we have any public comment. We wore them all out.
Suggested items in the future be outlasted.
Yeah, I do have one. Remember I was talking to you, there was a previous meeting where we had talked about perhaps not paying a director if they had a Zoom meeting versus an in-person meeting. And now that some of the organizations are deciding to only do Zoom meetings some of the time, I think that should all be equal. So that we could maybe should
We
put that.
already approved that change in the board policy manual.
That's what I'm saying. If it has already been approved that we are gonna pay them less, I think we need to revisit that. Because some of the organizations are deciding that it's not an option for a director to attend personally or not. Anyway, that's a suggestion for another meeting.
Got the note about Clark Mather coming down for a workshop, so we'll try to get that scheduled for River Partners.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
What am I doing this meeting? Or if you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
virtual on that.
Anybody that's up in PPC, you can always join me at those meetings too. They're kind of interesting.
So. At the upcoming meetings. So the book is on the 23rd.
Next week.
I won't be there,
Okay, and then,
but it will continue without me.
Charles covered it.
you know, the world keeps turning no matter what, doesn't it?
Any concluding comments?
Welcome aboard,
Welcome
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
What do you think?
I'm good.
All right.
I can see it.
We're done.
Yay.
Thank you all. Happy 25.
Think about these up here.